Ooh. Oswego City Hall. Before we begin our meeting this evening, we're going to have a swearing-in ceremony for our new municipal court judge, Amy Lindgren. And to kick us off, I'd like to invite Clackamas County Circuit Court Judge Colleen Gilmartin to come forward, who's going to be swearing in Judge Lindgren. Judge Gilmartin.
Thank you, Mayor Buck. Good evening, everyone. Before I do the oath, I do have some remarks that I would like to share. I am just deeply honored to be here this evening. Amy is a dear friend to me, and we met in 1999. Yes, the 1900s. And I remember we were in law school together, and I remember meeting Amy and being immediately struck by her character, her outgoing personality, and her genuine kindness. And one thing I'll never forget is how hard she worked. Amy and I were friends through law school. I was honored to be able to attend her wedding. It was beautiful. Amy and I, our paths diverged, I guess, after law school, but we eventually met back up again at the Clackamas County DA's office, where together we served for years. And our friendship just continued, I think, to blossom and grow. I was, again, part of Amy's family. I was honored to be at the wedding. I was not there, but obviously when her children were born, was part of her life at that time. I'm not certain who the applicants for this position were, but I am certain that there could not have been a better choice. As I said, Amy is one of the most hardest working people you'll ever meet. Her genuineness is probably something she got from her parents, who I believe are here today. She is kind, she is sincere, and she follows through with everything she says she'll do. She is one of the best people I think you could ever meet professionally and definitely personally. When she called me for today, a couple little tears because I was just really, really honored to be here. I know the people of Lake Oswego will be well served by her being a judicial officer for the city. I know she's experienced, as I said, incredibly hardworking, but also one of the smartest, just genuinely smartest people you'll ever meet. So with that, Amy, why don't you come up and we'll do the swearing in. I don't know which side you want. So there is the oath. Okay. If you could raise your right hand. I, Amy Lindgren, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oregon and the laws thereof and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Lake Oswego. And I will faithfully and honorably conduct myself in the office of municipal judge to which I have been appointed to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I feel like I should face City Council first. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity, and thank you, Judge Gilmartin, for your kind words, and for coming today to do this. It's funny, when I'm in court, I don't get nervous, perhaps because I'm ordering people around, but in all seriousness, I get more nervous when it's with friends and family here and important people like the City Council. But I just first want to say thank you for trusting me with this position. I take it very seriously, and I'm humbled by the honor you have imposed on me. Although I do not live in Lake Oswego, I feel like I'm already part of the community here. The staff has been amazing. I have loved walking around and going on my lunch breaks and just meeting the citizens as they come into court on their traffic offenses or more serious ones. And I want you to know that I am just really honored by the opportunity. So thank you. And I just wanted to say thank you to my family and friends who are here to support me as well. I want to make a few introductions really quick. My husband, Doug, who has supported me through all of this, my kids, James and Greta, and my mom, Molly. Who isn't here is my father, Mike, who was a Superior Court judge in Orange County for 30 years. He passed away last year, and he has come to my swearing-ins before, and so it's sad he's not here, but I know that he would be very proud of me now. My sister and brother-in-law, Joel and Nicole, are here from California as well. St. Mary's graduate here Councilor Burdick. She'll talk to you about that later. And my in-laws, John and Marilyn Lindgren, Doug's parents, and my good friends here. And I have some old coworkers here, my old boss, Greg Horner, Jen Brown, and Steve Migrant. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your support. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, everyone, we invite you to stay for a little reception for Judge Lindgren. And congratulations. We're glad to have you in the community. Thank you. Okay. For those of you watching on TV, we'll return to the regular meeting at around 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Yeah, so
All right, good evening again, everyone. This Tuesday, October 7th, 2025 meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now called to order. Ms. Hawkins, will you please call the roll? Here.
Councilor Afghan is on Zoom. Mayor Maboop?
yeah.
Mayor, Councilor Wendland?
Here.
Promoted.
Councilor Burdick? Here. Councilor Corrigan? Here. And Councilor Raff is on Zoom as well.
Did we tell you, Joe?
The last
No,
thing
just
we
kidding.
need. 7 mayors.
Yes.
Martha's. Yes, yes.
Yeah, really.
Thank you. Now, everyone, will you please stand, remove your hats, and join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Well, we have to start us off tonight. We have a couple proclamations we'll be making. The first is Meals on Wheels Month. And if you'd raise your hands, we have members of Lake Oswego Meals on Wheels board here, Judy and company. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Since 1972, Meals on Wheels has been providing healthy meals, vital support, and social connection to seniors, those who are housebound, and people with disabilities in Lake Oswego. As I mentioned, we're joined tonight by the board, who are also volunteers, and they represent some of the 150 dedicated volunteers that serve the community every day. During October, the city of Lake Oswego joins in the celebration of older adults and the Meals on Wheels program that supports healthy aging in Lake Oswego. And so that proclamation that we make for Meals on Wheels Month will be listed on the city website, and we invite everyone to, if they can, participate in the program, be a Meals on Wheels volunteer, and help connect with homebound residents in the community. They also will take your money, yes, and then they give it back to us. Our other proclamation relates to Indigenous Peoples Day, which is October 13th. Indigenous Peoples Day offers an opportunity to reflect on the resilience, sovereignty, and invaluable contributions of Indigenous peoples. The city of Lake Oswego recognizes the historical, cultural, ecological, and contemporary significance of Indigenous peoples and their lasting contributions to our community. Let this October 13th serve as a reminder of our shared responsibility to acknowledge the truths of the past, honor the presence and leadership of Indigenous peoples today, and commit ourselves to building a more inclusive, respectful, and equitable future for all. So you'll find that proclamation as well on the city's website. And now is the time set on our agenda for public comment. If you are here and would like to provide public comment and haven't already done so, there's these little white slips on the back table. Go ahead and fill one out and hand it to Ms. Hawkins. But Becky Owens and Sabrina Tremblay, you both signed up to come together. It's great to have you both here. Good evening. No, just make yourselves right at home.
You good, you good.
Have a seat. We'll make sure your microphones are on.
How do you do
Yeah,
that?
no, you're good. You're good.
It's good?
Yeah, I can tell, yes.
Oh, I got the clock right here.
Good evening. Please,
We go
go
ahead?
ahead and introduce yourselves.
All right, well, Mayor Buck and members of council, my name is Sabrina Tremblay, and I am the co-founder of Young Employment Success Lake Oswego. So Yes LO is a growing group of local parents, educators, and professionals who have something in common. We love the city. We know that we live probably in one of the best cities on the West Coast, and we thank you for everything that you do. There is one area in Lake Oswego that is falling short. Life after high school for young adults with disabilities. When these students turn 21 and age out of the school district's community transition program, opportunities in the city disappear. Parents describe this to us as a cliff where their children suddenly have nowhere to go, no work options, and no sense of purpose. For many families, this cliff is not just a metaphor, it represents lost progress, isolation, and deep concerns for the future of their children. Over the past 10 months, our team has been laying the groundwork for Yes LO to fill that gap. Our mission is simple, but it's powerful. We want to curate employment and volunteer opportunities for young adults with disabilities and helping them build fulfilling lives right here in their own hometown. Our first concept is a culinary and barista training program that will evolve into a community space that we have affectionately named the living room of Lake Oswego. It's conceived as a third space, and it will serve as a welcoming hub where young adults will learn practical skills, build their resume, and serve their community. Our nonprofit will unfold in phases, and we have a strategic plan to sustain and grow this model. Tonight, you will see some of our supporters here in the audience. And because it's important, it matters. We're here tonight because we anticipate that this journey will present many challenges. This is where your support becomes invaluable to us. We ask for your guidance, encouragement, and collaboration in helping us overcome future obstacles so that we can build a program that truly serves the young adults with disabilities in Lake Oswego. By working together, we believe that we can make Lake Oswego a model of inclusion for the nation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, for 3 minutes, I'm going to speed read. My name is Becky Owens. I'm the proud parent of two amazing young men, Charlie, 22, and Max, 20, who have lived their entire lives in Lake Oswego and are products of the Lake Oswego School District and Lake Oswego community in general. I am following my fellow co-founder for Yes LO tonight because I would like to give you the parent perspective, and there are many of us, as you saw, as to why this nonprofit is so vital to our city. In our society, work is more than a paycheck. Employment is about dignity, independence, and a sense of belonging. But for our young adults with disabilities, the path to meaningful work is often filled with obstacles, lack of accessible opportunities, and the unfortunate misconception that their contributions may be limited, as well as outright ableism and negativity from the employer. Yes LO stands as a beacon of hope, breaking down these barriers and redefining what's possible. As I said, my youngest, Max, is a young adult with a rare genetic syndrome and is cognitively and physically impacted by that syndrome. We are currently facing the end of school district services this June, and I can tell you this new chapter necessitates endurance, creativity, and unwavering love and support from parents to figure out a meaningful future for our kids. It became clear to me very early on that there were minimal employment opportunities in the city of Lake Oswego, and many parents have likened the aging out of CTP to be a very loud thud. CTP has provided Max with a sense of community, the predictability of a schedule, and a purpose. What happens to him when that is no longer an option? While my son Charlie had plenty of options to work in LO, close to home and around his friends, unless Max meets the criteria to work at a grocery store, meaningful paid employment opportunities are simply non-existent. There's nothing wrong with working at a grocery store, but that is not a long-term solution for Max and many others. I realized that if Max wants to get paid for doing something he loves, like baking or serving the public and talking with customers, we would need to look far outside Lake Oswego for any sort of meaningful opportunities for him. That is unfair and, to be blunt, unacceptable in a city like Lake Oswego. We have inclusion in our school district, but we don't have inclusion in our city. We have an amazing opportunity to be pioneers in our state. Our goal is to build Yes LO to be a beacon of hope and possibility, and Lake Oswego can be the model for other nearby communities. When we first developed our mission statement and vision, I told Sabrina that it must include the phrase, in their own hometown, because Max and his friends should have the exact same opportunity that Charlie and his friends had, to work where they live, to be seen and appreciated for the unique people that they are, to contribute to the city and community that helped raise them, and to experience the simple delight of running into their friends and neighbors at work. Yes LO believes every adult deserves the chance to discover their strengths and to contribute to their community. This is the first of many times we will be here to ask you for your support, and I hope you will join us in saying yes to opportunity, yes to empowerment, and yes to Yes LO. Thank you.
Oh, thank you both very much. And for no other reason, this organization will succeed due to the tenacity of those two right there. You've both been dedicated for many years to your kids and all the kids in LO. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else who would like to provide any public comment this evening? Okay, thank you all. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. One is Ordinance 2968, annexing 2405 Knaus Road. The other is Resolution 25-42, creating and approving appointments to the Foothills District Technical Advisory Committee. And the third is an amendment to the IGA with Lake Oswego School District regarding use of the Lake Oswego Recreation and Aquatic Center. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
All right, motion has been made by Councilor Corrigan and seconded by Councilor Wendland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0. And then we have for Councilor consideration only Resolution 25-44. This is appointing advisory board members. These are some alternate members being appointed to full members. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 25-44?
Move to adopt Resolution 25-44.
Second.
All right, motion been made by Councilor Burdick and seconded by Councilor Mboop. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? No? Okay, that motion passes 6-0, the mayor abstaining. Okay, and now on to council business. We're going to start with a presentation on a Lake Oswego Public Art project, a collaboration between the library, the Arts Council, and Respond to Racism. So I'd like to invite Director Melissa Kelly of the Public Library, Bruce Poinsett, Respond to Racism, and Nicole Nathan. All three of you will make chairs for you all here. Good evening to all of you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Thank you for your time today. We're happy to be here to talk with you this evening about the Respond to Racism and Arts Council public art project that is going to be cited at the Lake Oswego Public Library. We're really excited about this project and to see the process move forward. This collaboration between Respond to Racism, the Arts Council, and the library and other city departments to get us where we are today has been a thoughtful and mindful process where each step has been planned and executed with integrity and intentionality. We're grateful for the time and effort on behalf of all the partners and community members involved and excited to share with you where we are. First, a quick recap of the overall timeline, which was included in the staff report. The vision for this project really started in discussion in the city in 2020 when Respond to Racism leaders held meetings with city leaders about the vision for the project. The library was identified as the host site in 2021, and we began early visioning and planning meetings to talk about the site and the vision. In 2022, Respond to Racism applied for ARPA grant funds through the city for the project and received council approval. Planning meetings continued through 2023. And in 2024, Respond to Racism received a date extension for disbursement of grant funds, and we continued to work toward the project. However, for a variety of reasons, we were not able to have an artist under contract before the end of 2024. In January 2025, Council reallocated the ARPA funds to another project and awarded a general fund grant to the Respond to Racism art project. And then this year, more work ensued, and we'll talk more about that in the next few slides here, as well as the roles of each of the collaborators through the request for proposal stage and the selection process, bringing us up to today.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. I want to just give you a little overview of the process. So in collaboration with the library and the Arts Council, we invited artists and artist teams living in Oregon to submit proposals for site-specific public artwork that will be at the exterior of the Lake Oswego Public Library and is set to be unveiled in summer 2026. We selected an artist this past month. The theme for the project was historically relevant and accurate information regarding the history of racism in Lake Oswego and the city's aspiration to be free of racism, as well as embodying themes of hope and healing. The budget for the project itself was $31,000 for interpretive panels and sidewalk stamps on the exterior of the library. And the roles the different partners played were as follows. The RTR was leading the project, ensuring alignment with the community vision. ACLO will be providing insights and guidance on the art collection and inclusivity, and will lead project management through the installation phase, as well as be a liaison between the city of Lake Oswego. The library served as a site partner for art installations and is a community stakeholder with site expertise. Our project manager was Emily Prado, who led the development and launch phases of the RFP. And our panelists had the responsibility of reviewing, narrowing, and ultimately selecting the artists to execute this final project. Our project was really based around a community-centered approach. So this comprised of our panel comprised of trusted stakeholders representing each organization, as well as community members with varied expertise and backgrounds, including local arts, activism, curation, arts education, public art, local history, social justice, and/or community engagement. This approach was essential for the project's success and relevance, actively engaging community members in the planning and implementation phases, ensuring that the art reflected the diversity and identity of the community and built stronger connections between the artist and local community. A little bit about Respond to Racism. So our mission is to educate and empower residents with the tools to combat racism in all its forms and make Lake Oswego, Clackamas County, and Oregon a better place for people of all races and ethnicities. Our work is based on 3 pillars, which are learning, dialogue, and action. Finally, the project goals. So as mentioned before, this process began at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. We selected the library as an ideal partner because of our shared values and because it's a high-traffic destination for community members of all races, ages, and backgrounds. I know for myself, growing up here, it was a place of refuge. So this project had 7 goals, which I'll share now. First, facilitate a sense of introspection, knowledge, and hope. Second, be engaging, informative, and inspiring to the public, especially youth and families. Third, ADA accessibility in enhancing the atmosphere by exhibiting a variety of sensory elements. 4, being grounded in knowledge about the local history, balancing information about the past, present, and future aspirations of Lake Oswego. 5, the artworks are encouraged to be designed in such a way that allows for easy relocation or reproduction. 6, the art should harmonize with the mission of RTR, the library's values and architectural design, and the City of Lake Oswego's public art guidelines. And finally, strong consideration was given to proposals that were led by artists who are BIPOC.
Can you hear me okay?
Well, yeah. We can hear you, but so they can hear you at home. You know.
Exactly. Perfect. So looking at the last few months, we see the process since May of this year, which was focused on the Memorandum of Understanding, which was signed between the city, Respond to Racism, and ACLO, laying out roles and responsibilities of each. The RFP was finalized in collaboration with all of us, and a call for applicants for selection committee panelists all happened in May. In June, the call for panelists was open, and there was an orientation for those folks at the end of June. Then during July and August, the RFP was open to applicants. As you see here on this slide, here we see the review process for the submitted applications. The applications were scored by the panelists, and a little bit about the panelists. There were 9 total. It was an odd number to avoid ties. And the representation, the goal was at least to be 51% BIPOC, and that was met. The composition consisted of 4 total stakeholder representatives, 2 from Respond to Racism, 2 board members, and 2 representing the city. 1 was on the Library Advisory Board, and the other is from the ACLO board. And then 5 total open applicants, which represented the areas which Bruce just talked about. So the artist recommendation came out of a rigorous equity-centered request for proposal, which was jointly administered by Respond, ACLO, and the Lake Oswego Public Library. The process was designed to ensure transparency, diverse community input, adherence to the city public art guidelines, and a fair evaluation of the proposals. So what you see here is kind of a timeline of how things progressed. So panelists scored the 9 applications that were received. They were all looked at by 3 different panelists. Semifinalists were identified, so they narrowed the 6 semifinalists to 3 ranked finalists. Those applications then came to the Public Art Committee meeting on September 15th, where Melissa and Lake Oswego Public Library representatives, we went through, looked at the public art guidelines, made sure that everything was being adhered to in terms of selection criteria, and then further narrowed that selection of 3 down to 2. Those 2 then went to the Respond Board for a final recommendation, and that's what brings us here today. So in terms of a panelist process, they were really crucial in reviewing, narrowing, and ultimately recommending the artists for this project. So it really made sure that diverse perspectives were represented, community voices were centered, and selection was based on a transparent and rigorous rubric. Emily Prado, who Bruce mentioned before, was the project manager on behalf of Respond, and she really designed a great way of being able to bring this to fruition. So in terms of the RFP scoring guide, which you see before you, the ACLO public art guidelines are noted in orange, and those directly reference the criteria, which is part of 5.1.2 of the public art guidelines. So each aspect of the criteria were incorporated into the rubric. So quality, creativity, artistic excellence, innovation, original works of art being considered, evaluating how well and accurately the project engages with Lake Oswego's history, examines the proposal's appropriateness for the collection, how the artist understands the vision of the artwork, responds to the site with consideration to accessibility of diverse populations, including people with disabilities, youth, elder, local residents in the neighborhood, and more. And again, feasibility and longevity. Is this proposal thorough? Is there a realistic budget, timeline, and resource management? Can this artist execute this project? And is the artwork structurally sound? Is it something that's going to last? And is it something where they have helped us out with maintenance provisions as to what we do with this piece in the future? So with all of that, through the review process, Sahara Ilana DeFries, her application rose to the top. And this is a quote from her application. My name is Sahara DeFries, and I'm a biracial Black queer woman who's an artist, designer, and joyful disruptor who believes healing and art belong to everyone. Creating art is a generative act of resistance and healing that can shift culture, educate, heal communities, and amplify voices. The name of her project at the library is called Echoes of Belonging. Emily Prado summed it up really well. We had a pretty swift and unanimous meeting with the Respond Board in favor of Sahara DeFries. Reflecting back on the conversations that have happened from the community panelists to the Public Art Committee and the Public Libraries Review to the Respond Board Review, her proposal is the clear lead by a long shot. So, a little bit about her proposal. So you see here that there are, again, the 2 aspects of the proposal. They are a sidewalk treatment and then some interpretive panels, which were called out specifically in the RFP. So the first installation, again, with the 4 panels, which you see in the bottom right corner there, the 4 panels talk about 4 different aspects. So sundown, the first panel abstracts a fading sunset into a starry night with Black folks admiring the sunset. It symbolizes Lake Oswego's history as a sundown town yet imagines a new future as well. The second panel, Red Lines and Covenants, layers grids and boundaries to reference restrictive covenants and redlining that has shaped housing and wealth. However, a white hand holds the key and a pair of brown hands holds a home representing the city's effort to amend racist covenants. Tumwada honors Willamette Falls as a cultural hub for Indigenous peoples whose stewardship was disrupted by settler violence, yet whose presence continues today. And the final panel, Communities in Color, forms a mosaic of diverse faces representing immigrant, diasporic, and Black communities who enrich Lake Oswego. The words "you belong" are translated into many languages. And each of these panels you can see include a QR code, which will link to written and audio narratives in multiple languages, ensuring accessibility and offering residents and visitors entry points into these stories. So to root this work in community, Sahara will host public paint-by-number events at the library where participants can contribute to the panels after attending talks on the histories of which each design represents. So this really takes the painting into a collective ritual of learning, repair, and joy. In terms of the sidewalk treatment, she proposes a piece called Rain Speaks, and it's a series of sidewalk stamps with words from Black feminist authors Audre Lorde, Alice Walker, Octavia Butler, Angela Davis, Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, and Bell Hooks, all who are included in our library's collection. Each of the stamps sparks reflection, and when rain falls, which is very familiar, an illustration, which you see in the blue semicircles, that appears across all the whole length of the sidewalk, symbolizing resilience and renewal. So our next steps moving forward, this is, as Bruce mentioned, this is where ACLO comes in to help with this portion. So we will be working with the artist and Lake Oswego Public Library. Once the artist is notified of the selection, we have a meeting scheduled to work on a contract with Ellen on Friday. Have that contract executed by the end of the month, and then start meeting with the artist to discuss project specifics, including site plan, parameters, placement materials, ADA considerations, community engagement plans, and the timeline.
One of the areas we'll work with the artist on is the specific placement of both the panels and the sidewalk treatments at the library. The placement of the interpretive panels as presented by Sahara needs some adjustment due to site constraints. These include the landscaping, the gallery without walls sculpture, the guardian that's on the right side of the photo here, as well as irrigation, right-of-way, ADA accessibility, use, and traffic on the sidewalk. The pink line in the image represents where the library and ACLO are suggesting the panels be placed. The sidewalk treatment will extend further than that pink line and will be planned around the established trees planted along the sidewalk. We will also strategize with the artist and stakeholders on final materials, how the panels will be installed, for example, on a concrete footing, their placement. One idea could be two-sided panels to be more appropriate for the size of the site and the constraints of the grounds of the library, as well as proximity and connection to the sidewalk treatment.
So in terms of the community engagement aspect of the project, we will assist with that as well, and work with the library to host those, get those out into the community and participation. Sahara talks about this in her application, and this is actually an image from another community event that she led. She has experience with leading, quote, youth workshops, community projects, and public art celebrating Blackness, nature, and joy. By combining collective creation, education, and daily encounters, this project fosters dialogue across ages and backgrounds. In past projects I co-created with residents, ensuring participants felt ownership. For Lake Oswego, this process will surface difficult histories while offering healing and belonging. So, as we talked about a little bit, the painting of the panels is also part of the proposals, so we can have community engagement that way. the paint by number events at the library where participants will be able to contribute to the panels. Neighbors of all ages and backgrounds will then gather outside the library, paintbrushes in hand, filling in vibrant paint-by-number panels after hearing the histories each design represents. What begins as art making becomes a collective ritual of learning, repair, and joy, where past injustices are acknowledged and a shared future is imagined together. And this is really amazing placemaking in action. History and hope alive in the hands of the community, transforming paint on a surface into a permanent symbol of inclusion and belonging. By looking back, we can collectively look forward, painting and bringing to life the future we want together. This is history in the making, is a quote from the artist.
An important consideration is how will Respond to Racism, the Arts Council, and the artist ensure that the final artwork aligns with the mission of the library and is welcoming to everyone in the community. And a primary goal of the installation is to uplift BIPOC communities and help BIPOC individuals and families feel a greater sense of belonging and connection in Lake Oswego. Another primary goal is to engage with our aspirations as a city to be a welcoming community that cultivates well-being and exceptional quality of life for all. Art also provides an educational opportunity to help build cross-cultural understanding, appreciation, and respect. Each panel will integrate QR codes linking to written as well as audio descriptions in multiple languages, ensuring accessibility and offering residents and visitors entry points to learn more. In addition, as Nicole noted, the library collection features books by all of the Black women authors who will be quoted in the sidewalk stamps.
At this point, if you have questions.
Well, thank you all so much for both the presentation, but also just running this whole process. I know it's involved doing the RFP, taking the time to talk to folks about the RFP, before they submit, and going through and vetting. So to all of you and all the community members who have participated on the selection panel, the members of the Public Art Committee, I know there's been already up to this point a lot of community engagement on this, and so thank you all for this process. This and it's a long time coming, 5 years in the making. So thank you all. It's a great, collaboration, and just looks like there's some final, details to work out in terms of the siding. That's kind of a big, or an important one, so we don't crowd out the front of the library too much, but you have a good handle on that, you feel.
Definitely want to make sure that there's an aesthetic feel with where it's placed, and yeah, I think we can accomplish that.
They're all over it. Yeah. What are the so I saw some of the materials that it's like a Corten wrapped what are the panels?
How she has proposed it, and again, this is a proposal, so we can work with her on final material selection. She has proposed that it would be painted, that acrylic outdoor paint would be used on actually some wood panels, which I would steer her probably away from toward more like a metal panel or something that could be then coated with an anti-graffiti coating and then put in she is also looking at a metal frame for each of them. So they would be a lot more durable materials, again, suitable for outside.
Okay, painted.
Yeah.
She's a painter, yeah, I saw so, yeah, okay. So this is kind of unique work of art. I just was looking, I couldn't, we don't have an example to point to of another one of these panels. It's unique.
No, no, not at this time.
But you feel good about it. You're in it, okay, obviously.
Yeah, I do. I think, this is what we do with a lot of our public art projects is that, you work with the artist to figure out, okay, what's the best material, what's the best application of this, and what's going to work best at the site. The site does really dictate a lot of what happens there. So yes, I feel very confident that we can figure out something that will last, be easy to maintain, and look great in front of the library.
Great. I know we have a lot of trust in you and your team. You guys are the experts. Colleagues, questions? Councilor Williams?
Who's going to, on the maintenance part, will it just be captured in the rest of the pack, sort of other art pieces in town, so we can make sure that it's taken care of over the years?
That would then, yeah, it would then fall under the Arts Council and Public
Okay.
Art Committee,
So
yes.
it
That
just gets
continued
swooped into the,
maintenance.
okay, great. Great, wonderful, thanks.
Councilor Burdick?
There we go. So thank you all for this work. This is very exciting. I do have a question for kind of the written and the audio. Who's doing that work?
That would be also a collaborative community effort, and that we would all contribute to that and come to an understanding of what that would be. Where it would be hosted, I think we need to still figure that out, but that would be part of that conversation as well.
Okay, great. And then I'm hoping that in this too, that we're focusing, we're talking about, the redlining and the sundown, and that was more than just Black people who were impacted by that. So I just want to make sure that we're, give the full picture of what that was and the history of that and who was included, so that we represent everyone as we're telling the story.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Corrigan?
Yeah, I think that the rain-actuated paint is absolutely fascinating, especially in our climate. It's like so appropriate. But is there a history to that? Do we know how that will weather? What will happen? Or is that the first time?
It's the first time that we would have it within the city's collection, although there are instances of it throughout like the metro area. It does require some repainting every couple years to be able to make sure that it still is staying, true to its original design. But again, that's pretty typical upkeep. And she actually, the artist talks about it in her proposal of that she is prepared to either train folks to be able to do that, or she would come back and do the maintenance as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Booth?
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge the role of the Art Council and me being with Councilor Corrigan representing the city there and the great work you're doing. Quite frankly, I'm that person who always want to do things that unite the people, not, to divide them. And art is that form, art. As Andre Malraux, a philosopher friend, said that it's an anti-destiny. It's what gives shapes their styles. And when I read this artist, I'm very happy. And what Councilor Burdick is saying is just, I talked to Melissa about that we have to tell the story, but we always can say things in a way that's the truth, but that makes everybody comfortable. And when we work on art, on public things, it has to be something that unites us. No one can hide the history of Lake Oswego, of Oregon for that matter. And it's great to, as a person of color, I'm very proud to live in a city that recognizes my people, that they can go do their artwork in public, and where on my city hall we have a mural that represents those folks. It's something that shows that Lake Oswego is moving forward, and it's wonderful that what we're doing should show that the redlining were for the Asian, were for us, and it has, and I'm so proud to hear folks that I love, like Audre Lorde, who is wonderful for me in terms of, she's a wonderful woman that people should know more about. And Bell Hooks, who even in Paris, there is a street named Bell Hooks. So, to see those people in our street And because all those people, they were fighters. Angela Davis is still alive. They fight for justice, for social justice, but they also fight for the union, for America to be one. And that has always to be that thing we never forget, because there are folks who are against what we're doing. We should never lower our guard. And that was my concern. I talked to some people on public art and stuff, and I'm very proud of the work you are doing. I'm also proud of Response to Racism, what they're doing in the city, and I hope everybody will be proud to see the rendition of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brooke. Yeah, good comments all around. And we just, I concur with Councilor Verdict. We want to just make sure we don't want to inadvertently offend members of the groups that we're trying to, like, you know, make feel welcome, you know, at the, you know, it's a tough one. We ask a lot of this art. We're asking a lot of this art. Would someone like to make a motion to approve this selection? Oh, one more. What? Oh, 1 second. Councilor Verdict, go ahead.
I'm really curious, how is about the paint by numbers? It sounds really cool, but is that them actually painting on the panels themselves and that becomes like the panel, or does she do that panel work? I'm confused.
How I understand how her proposal was written is that, that community members would paint portions of the actual physical panels. She probably lays it out and, you know, here, paint this portion this color. That's
Okay.
how I would kind of assume that that would go. But again, I'm not going to speak directly for her, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It sounded really neat. I was just wanting to make sure I was reading and interpreting what her thoughts were, because I think that's a really wonderful way to bring everything together and bring people together. And then I would just say my only, you guys sound like you're on top of this already, but I just want to say I agree with you in terms of the placement of the panels. The sidewalk sounds absolutely so cool. I can't wait to see it. But the panels, I think we just want to be really careful that they're highlighted so people see them, but at the same time, it doesn't detract from the other artwork that's already there. And it sounds like you guys are already on top of that and kind of maybe coming up with some different solutions, but I don't want the panels to suddenly look like billboards. You know, we want them to maintain the artistic and the, you know, everything that you've talked about in terms of hope, healing, knowledge. So we really want them to look fabulous. So, but again, it sounds like you're on top of it, but just want to reiterate that I support you know, continuing to work with the artists and work with the site and so forth.
Thank you. Okay, Councilor.
So move to approve the selection of Sahara Ailana DeFries to be the artist for Phase 1 of the Response to Racism and Arts Council of Lake Oswego Public Art Project at the Lake Oswego Public Library.
Second.
All right, motion was made by Councilor Boop and seconded by Councilor Corrigan. Any further discussion of our gentleman on Zoom? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Director, Bruce, Nicole, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a completion date?
Summer.
Next summer?
26.
June 26th, okay.
Right in line with the North Anchor. We'll celebrate them at one time. Breaking ground. Okay, next we're going to have a couple public hearings, a couple annexations, and we will invite Mr. SB, annexation expert, associate planner, up here. We have ordinance 2969, so we have two annexations here. We have 210 Birdshill Road, including public right-of-way, and 13092 Amber Place in public right-of-way. So we will start with a review of the hearing procedures by Ms. Osnack.
Thank you, Mayor Buck. Members of the council, now at the time set for public hearing on ordinance 2969, annexing property at 2110 Birdshill Road. For the purposes of our record and for the city recorder, the script that I'm about to read applies equally to item 11.2. The procedures are exactly the same. That's ordinance 2970, which annexes property and the public right-of-way at 13092 Amber Place. For both of those ordinances, They involve an application of the criteria and standards listed in Mr. Espy's comprehensive staff report. That's available at the back of the room if anyone would like it. Testimony and evidence, if any is going to be received, should be directed towards the applicable criteria, including the comp plan or other land use regulations, failure to raise any issues that are directed to the criteria that would be sufficient to afford the city council or any party an opportunity to respond to that issue would preclude an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals. The public hearing process is as follows. We're going to have a presentation by staff, testimony by the applicant. If the applicant so chooses, individuals are allowed up to 5 minutes. Recognized neighborhood associations, homeowner associations, government or government agencies, or other incorporated public interest organizations are allowed up to 10 minutes. If the applicant chose to testify, they also have 5 minutes to rebut. Time limits don't include time spent responding to the questions from city council, and any person in attendance can cede his or her time to another person, but no one's testimony shall exceed 10 minutes. Prior to the closing of the hearing, a party, if any, who testifies for the city council can ask for an opportunity to present additional evidence, and that will be granted, and the record would remain open for 7 days. And at this point, I'll ask for both item 11.1 and 11.2, whether or not there are any ex parte contacts, including a site visit, any bias that any counselor has on this application, or any financial conflict of interest. And I will pause briefly to allow those who are online and in the here in the room to make any of those declarations. Hearing none, we are ready to move on, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Ostak.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
Mayor Buck, members of the council, good evening. I will go ahead and run through both presentations for both annexations, and then we can separate those. We can review those under separate public hearings after that.
Perfect.
So our first step is 210 Birdshill Road. The plan and zone designation is currently under Clackamas County's jurisdiction and is zoned low-density residential R30, and it's designated R10 in the city's comprehensive plan and will be zoned R10 upon annexation. Sanitary sewer service can be made available from an existing 8-inch public sewer line that is owned by the city of Portland in Terwilliger Boulevard. And then we are allowed to use that sewer through an intergovernmental agreement. And the property owner wishes to connect to this sewer because they have a failing septic system, and I believe that they're going to do some minor remodeling to the single-family dwelling. Water is available from the Palatine Hills Water District and will remain in this district after annexation. So 13092 Amber Place. The plan and zone designation are currently under Clackamas County's jurisdiction and zoned low density R20. They are designated R10. They are also designated R10 in the comprehensive plan and will be zoned R10 upon annexation. Sanitary sewer is available in an 8-inch line in Amber Place, and it terminates at the south boundary. And as the property develops, the line would need to be extended far enough to serve the homes on the site, as well as the future connections for 13079 and 13101 Amber Place right across the street. So they would need to serve all of the uphill residents as well. Water is available from a 6-inch city water main located in Amber Place along the site frontage. And then finally, we find that these properties are within the urban services boundary. Public services can be provided in a timely and orderly and efficient manner. The proposed annexations are timely with regards to public facilities and recommends approval of those annexations. I have open for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Espy. Any questions for Mr. Espy? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. We are going to open the public hearing on Ordinance 2969 for the 210 Birdshill Road property. And I'll ask, is there anyone here who would like to testify on this ordinance? All right. Seeing no one, I'm going to then close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion to enact Ordinance 2969.
Move to enact Ordinance 2969.
All right, motion made by Councilor Wendland and seconded by Councilor Mboop. Is there any discussion? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. And now we'll open the public hearing on Ordinance 2970 for 13092 Amber Place. Is there anyone here who would like to testify on ordinance 2970? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move to enact ordinance 2970.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Windland, seconded by Councilor Burdick. Any discussion? None? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, thank you, Mr. Espy.
You're welcome.
Good to see you.
Welcome to Lake Oswego.
Yes,
Yes, welcome.
all right. We are now going to hold two study sessions. The first is a review of our annual review of solid waste and recycling rates, and we have our Sustainability Program Manager, Amanda Watson, here to talk to us about this, with Lindsay Waldrum from Bell and Associates. Good to have you both here.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Amanda Watson, and I'm here with Lindsay Waldrum, Senior Associate from Bell and Associates. We're going to present to you the findings of our Public Services Annual Rate Review.
Sorry, is your microphone on? Just want to make sure.
Sorry, I'll sit a little closer.
Oh,
Can
there
you
we
hear
go.
me better?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're good.
perfect. We are going to present to you the findings of our Public Services Annual Rate Review. And we also have representatives from Republic Services. Our partners are here in the audience. We have Cindy and Travis as well. As a reminder, Republic Services has an exclusive franchise for the collection of solid waste in Lake Oswego through Ordinance 2901. And the company has 3 lines of business in Lake Oswego. For residential and commercial services, you see up on the screen here. It's very comprehensive. Rates for residential and commercial services are both bundled. So there is, just as a reminder, there's one rate that residents pay based on the size of their garbage container, and that includes recycling and mixed organics collection as well. And for commercial customers, again, they pay one rate based on the size of their cart or container, and that includes garbage, recycling, and organics. Yard debris is actually separate, but organics to comply with Metro's food scraps separation policy. Oops, sorry, touchy screen there. So our solid waste franchise ordinance provides for an annual review of Republic Services financial reports and an annual service rate adjustment to provide the franchisee with a target rate of return of 10% within that allowable 8 to 12% return. Up on the screen here are what our ordinance provides for City Council when considering whether or not a rate adjustment is necessary. Again, this is familiar. These are the criteria that we use every year. And we contracted with the consulting firm Bell and Associates to conduct a review of Republic Services 2024 annual financial report and provide recommendations on rate adjustments. So I'm going to turn it over now to Lindsay Waldrum to share the findings of their review.
Thanks, Amanda. Can you guys hear me? Okay, excellent. So just to kind of go over our methodology a little bit, the results reported by Republic were analyzed and the following tasks were completed. First, we compared reported route collection hours to the reported customer counts for each line of business. We used a predictive test of revenue for each line of business to ensure the reported revenues were reasonable. We conducted a predictive test of disposal to determine if the reported disposal expense was reasonable. We also reviewed other direct cost line items and determined if the expense was reasonable in relation to the customer and operational data provided in the detailed cost report. We did something similar for the administrative line items. We determined if it was reasonable based on operational data entered. And we reviewed the costs between the city and Republic's other franchise collection operations to determine if the allocations used were reasonable. Next, we consolidated the financial data by service, showing the total revenues and expenses of collection systems, which you can see on the screen now. This slide outlines the returns for each collection service provided under the Lake Oswego franchise collection system. The overall adjusted return on revenues was 13.9%, broken down as 11.2% for roll cart, 21.4% for container, and 9.4% for drop box. Once the adjusted franchise results were calculated, we determined the expected increase for collection services by applying known and measurable cost changes to each line item expense. These included a 3.9% increase in driver wages based on the labor contract with Clackamas County Sanitary Truck Drivers Association, an estimated 5% increase in administrative wages, a 5.5% increase in the Metro waste disposal rate that became effective July 2025, a 2.35% inflation adjustment based on CPI West, size Class A, all items, and a 61.6% increase in fuel costs due to the expired CNG tax credit. This table shows the results after those adjustments. So as you can see, overall, the return on revenues was 13.65%, and it's broken down here, roll card at 11.8, container at 20.39, Dropbox at 7.38. I should mention, I apologize, I missed this on the previous slide. We also did adjust revenues, so that's why some of this is showing this. We adjusted revenues based on the rates that were approved in February 2025. So you will see a change for that. The higher overall profit compared to the previous year's expected results is primarily due to a 14% increase in commercial revenue. We believe the current projected return is sufficient to maintain existing rates through December 2026, so no rate adjustment is proposed at this time. And I'll turn it back over to Amanda, who will share some additional recommendations.
Thank you. So although we're not recommending an overall rate adjustment to rates this year, there's a few updates to the rate schedule that we'd like to recommend that the City Council consider. The first of those is to restructure our bulky waste rates. And you may remember that we actually did restructure them last year. For a number of years, we had a structure where residents who had big bulky items that couldn't fit in their garbage container, those were collected based on those were collected separately and charged based on a yardage fee, which was difficult for people to understand. Even myself, it's hard to apply yardage to a refrigerator, for example. So we updated them last year to be an itemized list of fees with a different price for a number of different items, mostly individual items, some grouped together. We got some feedback both from education and outreach that Clackamas County was doing with multifamily buildings in Lake Oswego, but also from our public services that itemized fee still was a challenge for people to understand the exact costs that they would be charged. Part of it is that our public services call center couldn't really handle a list that was that long when providing information for Lake Oswego customers. And so Republic's request for us was that we update our fee structure again, and rather than have a bunch of different rates for each individual item, use some simple categories. So small, medium, large, extra large, a category for items with Freon, which need to be disposed of separately, and electronic waste. And so that seems, again, straightforward, easy for customers to understand, and easier for Republic Services to implement through their customer service system. So we passed this along to Bell & Associates and had them make a recommendation. They recommended that we adopt the same fees and same fee structure as Washington County. Washington County and Portland actually both adopted this type of rate structure in the past year, and so Washington County had recently done a review to understand, how the cost of disposal for items, what the cost of disposal for items was, and build in the labor costs for those to make rates that, according to Bell & Associates, are reasonable and fair, and we feel are easier for Lake Oswego customers to understand. So the staff recommendation is that we adopt, as recommended, that new structure that is the same in Washington County. Another advantage there is that Republic Services operates in Washington County, and so, again, those are rates that they're already operating under and a structure they're already familiar with. The second proposed update to the rate schedule is to pause recycling contamination fees. So as part of the statewide law to modernize our recycling system called the Plastic Pollution and Recycling Modernization Act, local governments are receiving funding to implement contamination reduction plans, basically a plan to help make our recycling stream cleaner by educating customers about what goes in the bin and what doesn't, by having a feedback loop when there is contamination in recycling, and then having some type of a penalty, be a service penalty or a fee. So local governments are supposed to be developing these plans. Clackamas County is going to be working on developing a plan for the county, including Lake Oswego and all the cities within it. So the recommendation to pause recycling contamination fees is so that we can be consistent with what the county recommends in terms of fees. Right now, Lake Oswego has contamination fees for carts and containers for recycling, but not all cities, actually most cities in Clackamas County, including Clackamas County themselves, don't have those fees. And so the staff recommendation here is to wait until we have that direction from the county and we can roll out fees paired with education and feedback. I do want to share that, in discussing this with Republic Services, they're not supportive of that approach, and they would prefer that we keep the contamination fees and just kind of update them when we have the information from Clackamas County. And the reasons for this is that they're concerned with the optics of, so right now in jurisdictions that don't have contamination fees, typically what happens is that if, let's say it's a commercial business, if there is a lot of garbage in their recycling and the hauler observes that, they will let that customer know, hey, we found, recycling, or we found garbage in your recycling, please correct this. And if you don't correct it, we will need to dump that as garbage and charge you as such. And so Republic Services is concerned about the optics of having to dump contaminated recycling as garbage. The other concern is that, they point out that when individual customers aren't charged for the contamination that they are, personally or, company-wide responsible for, the costs of dealing with that contamination are spread across all customers. So they had a fairness argument as well. So I did want to share that. This is, a decision point I'd like to get council's feedback on, is whether or not you would prefer to pause recycling contamination fees until we have that countywide plan and approach, and really the educational piece alongside the fees. The next recommended update to the rate schedule is to restrict the extra yardage fee to garbage containers only. This is a little bit wonky, so I'll explain what this is. So right now, we have on our rate sheet an extra yardage fee that's charged to commercial customers when there's excess material that they're disposing of that's beyond the capacity of the container. And it has been, we actually asked Bell & Associates to look into some of these additional service charges that were charged for commercial customers in Lake Oswego, because we saw that so much of the additional revenue was coming from commercial customers. We wanted to kind of look into that. One of the things that we picked up was that extra yardage fees were charged to commercial customers quite frequently, more than we expected, and found that that was being charged both to in instances where there were overflowing garbage containers and in instances where there was extra yardage in recycling. And in talking to our rate consultants and in talking to Clackamas County, that is not standard practice across our region. From my understanding, we're the only jurisdiction where this fee is being applied to recycling. And so the recommendation is that we restrict that just to garbage. We make it clear on our rate sheet that that charge is just for garbage containers. And really, the real reason behind this is that, as I mentioned in the beginning, our rates are based on the size of the garbage container. And so if a customer consistently has more recycling, the expectation is that Republic Services works with that customer to adjust their service for recycling so that they don't have that overflow, right? Because it's additional work for Republic Services when there's material that's beyond the container. It takes more time. That's a problem for them. But rather than charge them more, they should be working with that customer to increase the size of their recycling container if needed, or come more frequently, pick up 3 times a week instead of twice a week. But that, the argument is that there should not be a fee for additional recycling. There should be a fee for different garbage, because the customers are being charged based on that garbage container. So
We're talking about residential?
No, this is for commercial,
Only
excuse me.
commercial.
Yep, just for commercial, yes.
Okay.
So containers, thinking dumpsters, basically, like a big container,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, I don't think they're, okay.
Yeah.
So when there are, yes, a large overflowing recycling container, I see.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, and the contamination fee, was that also just commercial?
The recommendation is to pause for both,
applies
to
to
be
both.
consistent. I think we did, so last year we actually added commercial recycling or commercial contamination fees where we only used to have residential, and that was in anticipation of this plan, and it actually took DEQ longer than we expected to put out guidance to guide those plans. We're basically behind where we expected to be. So we sort of prematurely adopted those commercial contamination rates last year.
We already had it for the residential.
We already had residential. I think for consistency, it makes sense to pause both, but one option would be to just pause the commercial ones, since those were
Are
the
people being
newest.
charged the residential
My understanding is for
contamination?
both, yes.
Oh, they are, yeah. And just like, when we say contamination, are we talking, they threw like the wrong size yogurt container in the, no.
No, it varies, but it could be something like people, in the residential side, you might see something like people putting their recycling in plastic bags in their cart, that's contamination. Commercial side, it could be a bag of garbage on top of recycling, and I think it really depends.
Okay, it's like
Yeah.
trash.
It's trash, yeah.
Trash.
Non-recyclable
Okay, not-
materials.
Not, I put the wrong numbered item. And how does the driver, how do they know? I mean,
Yeah, sometimes it can be visual. So I've kind of followed up on things, and they'll be like, here's the picture of what they had plastic milk jugs in their glass container, right? You can see that. But there's also more and more of the trucks now have cameras. So when they're dumping a big commercial container, they can see that contamination as it's being dumped into the truck. So
yeah.
kind of couple different methods. But the point being, I think we want to move towards a more consistent process in which they're recognizing the recycling, the contamination, the customer is notified, there's some education that the county can provide, that it's holistic and it's not just.
So right now, they just get the fee. And there's no follow-up, like,
Well,
they
Republic
may not
does,
even know.
Yeah, Republic does, where they have the information, they do contact the customer. And again, tell the customer if there's contamination. I know it varies, they may not catch it, in time, but they are supposed to be consistently contacting customers before the fee is charged to
I
let
see.
them know
Like,
that there's
do they get a
contamination.
warning?
I don't know if we want to
Could they
let
get a
our
warning?
Public Services folks.
One warning? Okay,
So like a tag on your cart.
that's good. Yeah, I don't know, I kind of think that the fee is, yeah, I mean, people
that
should
it
not be
always-
putting trash in the recycling bin. I mean, and I think the fee is helpful. If I got the fee, I would be like, okay, I wouldn't do that to begin with, but hypothetically, On the commercial side too, I mean, I kind of feel like they should be even better. Are we
I think
talking
the challenge with commercial,
multifamily?
yeah, it includes multifamily.
Oh.
That's the big challenge, right? Because I think, there's this split challenge where the person who's paying the bill, the property owner, is not fully responsible for and controlling resident behavior. So that's where that education piece comes into play, where I think we need a really strong educational program paired with, right, consequences, right? These things go together. But
Okay, so
I think that's
maybe
a
we
challenge for
keep the
commercial.
residential in place and delay on the commercial.
The recommendation is just for 1 year as well, just so we can be consistent with Clackamas County. So, you will see me again next year for the next rate review, and we can, continue the conversation too, so.
Okay. Okay, so I might see, is there consensus on that? Fine, okay, no one's that interested. And then what about the extra
yes,
yardage fee on the garbage, yeah? Yes. Oh, yeah, we like that, yeah. Yes.
Okay, to restrict that
Oh,
to
you have a
just
question.
garbage, okay.
Okay,
Okay. I just had one more, the general cleanup. So there's just a few rates, basically unnecessary rates on our rate sheet that are no longer used that we need to remove, and then a couple that we're missing. And so the unnecessary rates are, we used to have a separate set of rates called for summary billing accounts, where, for example, HOAs paid for yard debris service on behalf of residents, and so they were on a different rate schedule. We have bundled rates where HOAs can still choose to do that, but all residents are on the same rate. So we're removing that separate summary billing service rate. We also had a reinstatement fee on our rate sheet that's duplicative of a cart redelivery fee. So if someone's service needed to be paused, or if it was, a rental where someone wasn't renting for a long time, didn't need garbage service, there was basically it was 2 fees that were the same amount that would have hit this person or this customer, and so we will just proposing to remove the duplicative fee. And then what was missing was a late payment fee, which is in Republic Services billing policy, but I just wanted to make sure it's listed on our rate sheet if someone is more than 45 days past due their account. And then the standard industry lock fee for containers, which was previously on our rate sheet but was just missed last year, and so we're going to make sure that that shows up again. The reason why we try to be really thorough with this is that Republic Services can only charge those fees and rates that are on our approved rate sheet, and so we just want to make sure that everything that they need and charge customers are on there, and again, that they're all reasonable and just. So
Okay.
a little bit of just cleanup with those 4 rates that I mentioned.
So I'm sorry, is there in this, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to the recycling contamination. Is there now in this intervening year outreach being done to multifamily to help with the education? No, nothing's happening. We're just waiting on the county.
Clackamas County does do education and outreach. That they've always done that on behalf of us as part of the recycling partnership that we have with the county. But with this new statewide law, they're going to be getting additional funding so that they can increase that. Because typically, right now, it's generally if we get a complaint from a resident, I escalate that to the county and say, hey, can you work with this community? Or they may get direct requests. So it's sort of as problems arise, and they are going to have additional resources to be more proactive. So there is education happening. There's just a lot more need that there's capacity right now.
Sure.
And they'll be developing this plan with more resources to do more of that.
If there's a property that's having an issue, do we see them taking like proactive action, the property manager being like, okay, we need to install some signage? Or are they?
Absolutely. That's exactly what happens. But if they're aware of the issue, and I think that's the challenge, is that, they have a pretty small team, they have a very hardworking team, but they aren't able to kind of proactively drive around the community and look at containers. They're going to be regularly checking in and, through newsletters and things like that. But it's really when issues are escalated, when they hear of an issue, then they come, they do a site visit, they do signage, they do education where they need to.
The county.
The county.
I was thinking, I really think the owner should be on the property owner and that's why I do like the fee thing because, they're raking in a lot of rent, they should be signing, especially if it's a problem and they know it's a problem. There is some duty to make sure their residents are complying with it. I don't think it's the county's, it's great that the county helps, but I don't think it's the government's job to make sure people put the trash in the right bin, that's crazy. We don't have the resources to do that. But the private equity firms that own the multifamily complexes, yeah, they have the resources. So anyway, but I'm fine with the pods, but I do think ultimately, I think it's a good policy to have fees going on to the property, and then they'll start installing the signage. The county shouldn't be doing it.
They do receive some funding. That's basically why they do it. They receive dedicated funding for it, but
that's great.
Yeah. So. And we do what we can within the scope of our work, but they do the bulk of that for us.
Those fees, they changed on Councilor Willa.
Can we just ask general questions on the whole thing, or do we have to stick to the?
Yeah, I think I just had general questions as well.
Okay. Well, first, after reading the report, I just want to make one comment that I think pertains to the wonderful job that Republic is doing for our city. They got 40 positive comments and 40, you might say, not as positive comments. And in a business, you usually get a 10-to-1 ratio, 10 bad for every 1 good. Kind of a lot of people that do good don't really chime in all the time.
Right.
So I think that's fabulous, and I think that is one part of the good relationship that we have with Republic and our city, and I appreciate very much the partnership with trying to get all of the little, you would not think that garbage and recycling and everything is so complicated, but after you look at everything, it is actually complicated. My concern is that it's an uncontrollable cost, but what do you see of the metro disposal rate increases in the future? Because they've been going up higher than healthcare or college tuition. And I'm sorry, but what are we doing differently that is causing increases?
Yeah, it's a complicated question. And I'm not an expert on kind of all the cost drivers for them. I do know we expect it to continue going up. They did a cap. They established a cap a couple of years ago, and actually we didn't reach that cap this year. It was at 9%, I think. But Metro did a process to look at their rate setting and kind of review it in the past year. And separately, they have a solid waste system facilities plan process where they're looking at, the solid waste services that are available to the public across the region and have a plan for new facilities and for changing facilities and for potentially changing their role in transfer stations. And so I do think we are going to see some changes. I don't know in which direction, but I think we can expect, yes.
I think it's going to continue to
I
go
mean, I
up
don't know
at
if Lindsay,
high
if you have
rates.
more insight on that, but.
I don't,
Yeah.
so it's kind of interesting looking at the report because it kind of shows it slowed a little bit this year. I think that's what you were mentioning at 5.5%. It was double
Right.
digits the 2 years prior, but I really don't know what it's going to look like next year. I would just also assume, though, it's going to continue to go up. I just don't have any solid information yet, so.
And I'll say that, Metro has a budget process every year and provides opportunities for local governments, at the staff level, but, also at the Regional Waste Advisory Council level to provide input. And there is consistent communication and feedback through that about the impact of Metro disposal fees on local governments. And I think we will continue to raise that in that venue. And so we will see, how that's taken into effect in the future as well.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's not quite as a subject like tolling is, but I do think this could be something that the mayors could all just write a joint letter, because when you look at it, I mean, 2021 was 15.7, 22 was 8.5, 23 was 11.2, 24 was 11.9. I mean, that is just ridiculous. I mean, that's a compounding. For the finance people, you're doubling your money in 5 years, and that's just not acceptable for the people that live in homes that everything else is going up, and it's just one additional expense. Now, they don't see it as a direct payback, but they do through the rates that Republic has to charge us to fit our criteria. And I do think that it wouldn't be a bad idea if we got a letter off to Metro because that just is, unless they're putting more onus on the consumer so that they can take money and spend it elsewhere that's not on garbage. And I don't know how that works, but I would bet that money is going elsewhere that it wasn't before. Last thing is, I do support the rate structure. Republic came and had a bad 22, was it, or 23, whatever year it was. And sometimes when you see these returns, you have to look at the history, and we do the give and take over the course of the years, and it all equals out. And I know they were good to come to us and compromised on their rates a couple years ago. And so this year, I mean, if you're okay with the rates, I mean, if it's fair, is everything fair? Republic, is it fair? Okay, good. And you're all good with the decisions we've made tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the direction.
Okay.
I didn't have the information on the Metro disposal fees with me tonight, but I'm happy to follow up too with some more context on why that's increased. And we do have that information from them, so I'll bring that, or I'll send you an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Metro's out of our control to a certain extent, but it can be under our control. Hey, we stopped tolling. I mean, I think that was now. But I think in equal sense, it's the average person just gets dinged by this stuff, and I don't know. I'm not okay with that. So
Yeah, not as bad as PG.
well, but that's mandated by the
That
legislative stuff that they put into place.
Big one. Even the New York Times put out a thing that said, we want to see your utility bills nationwide. They're like, these things are going up higher than anything else. But is Metro spending some of the increased fee on the capital plan? Yeah, is that part of it?
I feel like I know too much about this. Metro's fees have three pieces. The first is the actual regional system fee, which is paid on every ton of garbage.
Right.
And that's used to operate the transfer station system and send your stuff to Arlington to be disposed of. That probably is where they've built in. Remember, you had Marisa here, not Marisa. You had Marta McGuire here talking about the regional system plan and their desire to build new facilities, including one on the west side to deal with Metro South. That's probably where that is. It's also all the costs they have for actually operating the bigger system, so the educational programs, compliance with the Recycling Modernization Act, so all the overhead costs they go. They also have their actual tip fee, which is what happens if you go to Metro South or Metro Central and you tip a ton of garbage at their transfer stations, you pay their tip fee. That tends to set the floor for everybody else's tip fees. So even if our garbage goes to a different transfer station, very often the private haulers charge an equivalent or slightly higher fee. And then the other piece of Metro's solid waste charges is they have an excise tax, which is how they pay for their general fund. 100% of Metro's property tax revenue goes to pay for the zoo. So there is an excise tax. So
In that tip?
Again, it has three pieces.
Oh.
The system fee, the actual tip fee, and then the excise tax, which
All
is
folded in.
Yeah. No, we're probably, because we're going to Republic's transfer station, right?
The regional.
We're not paying the Metro tip fee here in Lake Oswego. We're paying the regional system fee and the excise tax. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but they're also going to be collecting.
On the tonnage.
Right.
Yeah.
On the ton. Well, and on the dollars the excise taxes, there's a very complicated formula that is tied. I don't want to get into it, but they have a essentially negotiated deal with industry where they get basically a guaranteed rate of return on the excise tax. So that can go up and down depending on how much garbage is being disposed of.
Right, and now people are going to be paying for every package that you buy because there's a new tax that is put onto the producers that's going to go right into your, what?
That's the Recycling Modernization Act. So that's the upstream payment for the cost. I mean, it all costs something. The question is, when do we pay it in our use of stuff, right?
Yeah, vendors are adding the RMA tax.
Just like we're getting tariff fees charged on top of things that we buy as an organization.
I don't know why they don't fold it into the price, but they want to let you know. Okay. So, yes, everyone else, everyone good? Yes? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank you, Republic.
And your
Yeah,
drivers
just,
are absolutely wonderful.
I have to
That's
s-
all I hear about is how wonderful your drivers are. So,
And this new alert system too, I don't know if that's relatively where the email when the drivers come in, the pickup's on the way, I mean, the communication really has improved greatly. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Of course, I'm getting trash picked up so much I'm emailing Council. Councilor Raff. Oh, somehow we can't, hold on, we don't have audio on you. Let's see. You're not muted, but. No, but well, Ally's not, it's Councilor Raff. Okay,
Can you
try
go,
it
Aaron?
again. No. Well, you want to talk about the garbage? Oh, yes, thumbs up, garbage? Okay. Okay, hold on. No.
Can you check the microphone on your end, Councilor Rapp?
Yeah.
Can you check
Maybe,
the
well, then why don't we'll just take, maybe we'll take a 5-minute recess and we'll troubleshoot he's saying, but I want to take a recess anyway. 5 minutes, just 5 minutes.
He's fine.
And,
No, he's good.
well, he doesn't want to say anything, but we're taking a recess. Okay, we're back in order. All right, so we have the last study session of the evening is on home occupation standards, and we have Associate Planner Michael McNamee and Director Namalu here with us. So great to have you both.
Thank you. Good evening. This is a follow-up study session to discuss a proposal to update the city's specific use requirements regarding home occupations. The council previously discussed this at a study session in April. So just as a quick refresher, home occupations are a business conducted from a residential unit that do require a business license to operate. As of January 1st of this year, there were about 570 of them operating in Lake Oswego. Most involve a business owner or owners working alone out of their home, but some do have clients or customers coming to the home. In the previous study session, we discussed the primary purpose of the project, which is to replace one of the existing use-specific standards for home occupations. Currently, home occupations must comply with a standard that says the use cannot alter the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood or infringe upon the rights of residents in the vicinity to the peaceful enjoyment of the neighborhood. The standard is nebulous, open to a wide amount of interpretation, so the city is proposing to replace it with a set of new standards that capture the intent of the existing standard while being clearer and more measurable. We discussed several concepts to replace the existing standard at the previous study session. After further research, 2 more work sessions with the Planning Commission, and analyzing the results of a survey staff sent to home occupation owners, which we also talked about at the last study session, many of these concepts have been refined, replaced, or removed. This is reflected in the draft code amendments that were attached to the staff memo, and I would be happy to discuss any of those changes if the council has questions today. Otherwise, we'll plan on discussing each of the concepts in more depth at the public hearing. Staff is looking for direction today on how to handle one of the concepts, placing limits on or prohibiting outdoor activity associated with the home occupation. At the previous study session, we also talked about creating a new agricultural use category that could cover uses such as a winery, after feedback in the survey that demonstrated these uses might be too intense to meet the proposed new requirements under the home occupation ordinance. We also talked about expanding the availability of farm stands to new zones. And these ideas have been fleshed out a bit more since April, and staff is looking for input from the council about the proposed specific use standards and changes to the land use tables. Starting with outdoor activity, this is probably the area of biggest disagreement between the Planning Commission and council. In the April study session, the council indicated they thought no outdoor activity associated with home occupations should be permitted. This is aligned with existing internal policy, which the city mostly feels has been working. However, feedback from the Planning Commission, the public, and some home occupation owners in the survey was that some lower impact outdoor activities should be allowed. So staff has developed 2 options for how to handle outdoor activity that reflects this feedback. Option 1 would permit small instructional classes outside with a limit of 8 participants, and option 2 would not permit any outdoor activity. Under option 1, no more than 2 sessions would be allowed per day with a maximum of 6 per week, and hours would be limited to between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. No classes would be allowed on public holidays. Business use of outdoor space for events, rentals, parties, weddings, performances, markets, or other commercial gatherings associated with the business would be expressly prohibited. Under either option, a business owner would be permitted to work alone outside to do things like paint, work on a computer, or make things. The only activities affected by the prohibition or restrictions would be those involving clients. Switching gears to talk about urban agriculture and farm stands. The proposed changes would expand the availability of farm stands to all residential zones as an accessory use. The reason for this change is partly based on the planning department receiving inquiries from people in residential areas interested in having a farm stand, prompting the question internally about whether to permit them as home occupations. Instead, staff believes it would be more appropriate to regulate them under the existing specific use standards for farm stands. Farm stands, as defined in the Community Development Code, are a temporary or permanent structure used for the sale of fresh produce and seasonal items, including flowers, holiday trees, and wreaths. Currently, farm stands are only permitted in some of the commercial or mixed-use zones. When permitted as an accessory use, the code limits their overall size to 800 square feet. Because of this size limitation, the Planning Commission felt the impact of permitting them would be minimal, and allowing them in all residential zones reflects their guidance. The proposed changes would also create a new use category called urban agriculture. As you may recall, one of the existing businesses operating as a home occupation is a home winery, which is a fairly intense use to be classified as a home occupation. Staff is proposing that the urban agriculture use category be created, which would allow us to create specific use regulations that are tailored to this type of use. It would be permitted as an accessory use in the R10 and R15 zones, or the lowest density residential zones the city has. Crop production and on-site sales or tastings would be permitted. The property would need to be at least 1 acre in size. Between the R10 and R15 zones, there are currently 191 properties that meet that threshold. The agricultural use itself would also be limited in size to ensure that it remains an accessory use. Staff is currently proposing a limit of 20,000 square feet, or 35% of the area of the lot, whichever is less. That would include the area under cultivation, any structures associated with the agricultural use, the compost pile, or any other area associated with the use. Hours of operation for sales or serving and use of heavy equipment would be limited to between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., and there would be a further limit on the total number of days for sales or serving of 70 days per calendar year. A maximum of 30 clients or customers would be permitted on the property at one time. If a proposal did not meet one or more of these standards, a conditional use process would be available.
Before you leave farm stands, Michael, farm stands would be, do you have to grow the produce on your own property or produce the goods?
Doesn't specify, but we do allow community gardens outright in the in residential
So anyone
zones.
could just open a farm stand on their residential property without growing any agricultural products on their property under this provision?
As currently written, I believe it
believe
would,
so,
but we
yes.
could add
All
that as a
residential
provision. I
zones.
mean, the kinds of things we're thinking are the people who put the little stands with the farm, where they sell
I
flower
understand, but I
bouquets
also
and-
have folks who bring in Christmas trees and sell them in my neighborhood. And
true.
regularly,
Oh,
yeah,
bring
Bill
in
Youngblood
Christmas
has to go
trees.
visit. They don't grow the Christmas trees on their property.
I know someone who does that.
Yeah. I think he might be a school. It might be different.
Yeah.
He's not residentially zoned. I'm talking about single-family homes.
Or these Floridian trees.
So I just, I'm concerned about, I understand what you're saying, which is the cute little stands where people have the honor system and you can pay $5 and get flowers, but I'm thinking that this might not be what actually ends up happening.
So right now, we don't allow the farm stand.
Not in any of the residential zones, no.
I see. Yeah, I mean, and to follow on Martha's question, so you don't have to grow it, and you have to sell something agricultural, but it could be, if it's pretty expansive, like a wreath, Christmas tree. You could just be, and how many folks? I'm just thinking, like, we're having this other discussion about the other types of businesses and how many people can come, but the farm stand, you just plop a table out and you could do it year round. People be, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards just keep the kibosh on the farm stands. I mean, the farm stand. I mean, there's nothing here that's anything about a farm. I mean, what the heck? We have one farm, Lusher, and it's not even in the city. So, yeah. What do you all think about that?
My thought is that part of the original discussion that we had was that you're in a residential area to not be in a commercial zone. And we have so many commercial zones that are within literally half a mile of anyone's residential, that you kind of have the divide. And I would, I just don't, I mean, this doesn't prevent somebody from having like a little lemonade stand or things like that, right?
No, I mean, we don't typically, I mean, I guess unless somebody was operating one of those,
Every day.
constantly every
Right,
day,
right.
but that's typically not what we see. And I would point out that we do allow community gardens, and it does allow the sale of produce that is grown at that garden on a limited basis. So we do already have that provision.
But that's a community garden that is not on somebody's residence. Is that correct?
Yeah. a
It doesn't
community garden.
preclude it, but typically, no, community gardens are usually,
That
you
to be
see them on.
co-opt, kind of
Yeah.
as a, right? I mean, those you go, I mean, if you live near a cooperative garden or whatever, you just know that there's a lot of people there. It's kind of like living next to a park, right? So I'm kind of like, let's keep the,
Let's just not go there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see the need for that. How, Georgie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you good with that too? Okay. Well, that's an easy one. And what about you, what do you all, how do you feel about the urban agricultural use? This is our winery.
Indeed.
But the agriculture, yeah,
Yes, it would.
we have a winery in Lake Oswego.
yeah,
Yeah, I think they're not doing any harm.
but he doesn't have
Yeah.
Fall under this.
these little side stands that, I mean, he's out.
Which one? Create.
30 people doing the
Oh,
if our current winery would qualify.
I mean, to me, one of the questions I have with this is that where you start impacting neighbors is with noise and with parking.
Mhm.
So if they can, if you've got an acre lot and you've got a little winery and you can have, kind of keep it quiet and keep it on your property,
Doesn't bother anyone else.
it doesn't really bother anyone else. It's
Right.
when you start getting the overflow that it becomes an issue.
Does this address that, the parking?
It addresses it indirectly by limiting the amount of days that they can operate, as well as the number of clients that can be permitted at one time, and then, of course, the hours as well. So it indirectly does that. But we also have a minimum lot size requirement as well, and a maximum percentage that can be, of the site that can be used for the winery or agricultural use.
But 70 days a year, I mean, that means you could be doing a lot of kind of weekend stuff, which then kind of, again, if they can't fit 30 cars, or let's say even 20 on their lot, you're getting overflow into the neighborhood.
Right. And I believe that the 70 days was referenced from another code that
Yes.
we reviewed.
Yeah, so the City of Portland has a use called market gardens that is kind of a similar idea. And so some of the allowances were taken from, that was used as a reference. So the 70 calendar days was taken from their market garden use.
But we could limit that further. I mean, obviously, these standards can be customized however we want. We use that as a reference, just from what we found in another city's code.
I mean, for me, it comes down to the parking and the noise.
Yep.
And if those things can kind of be contained, however it's written,
Do they have to do some kind of agriculture on the property? Like they got to be growing something in this use, kind of like we were talking about the.
Well, there's a definition of urban agriculture, which I think Michael can bring up, or I can.
Not just like
That's
you
without.
have a big lot and you bring
Urban
like,
agriculture, you can't wear overalls. You have to do it in designer clothes. That's the urban,
suitcase.
the urban aspect.
Suit and tie.
Suit and tie,
Suit and
right.
tie.
And you
Okay,
don't get any
so
dirt
I can just
underneath.
read the definition as we've
Okay.
written it. So it's a site where food and/or plants are grown to be sold, including crops that will be used to produce alcoholic or other beverages. An area for serving or tasting can be included. The food and/or plants may be sold directly to consumers, restaurants, stores, or other buyers, or at markets. Heavy manufacturing is not allowed as part of this use. So to meet the definition, you do have to be growing food or plants.
Like you have vines.
And are there hours for the events on this one? I know we were talking about like,
7.
well, that was
It
for a
is.
different part of the code. So,
Yes, we do restrict the hours. Let me make sure I have the right.
I mean, it
7
says
a.m.
limited.
to 8 p.m. are for sales and serving.
Okay.
Okay.
From
7 to 8.
7.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, unless.
But that's also the time where the use of motorized equipment is allowed. So I think it coincides with that.
I'm fine with
Okay.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's- yeah.
I think that's the fact that they have to grow the crops on the property. I mean, that's,
My only concern with this is it still doesn't address any parking. And if you're having 30 people come and you're not doing enough to accommodate parking, then to me, that will become a burden of the neighborhood.
So a standard that requires parking to be accommodated on site, for instance.
Or at least most, I mean, I'm not expecting all 30 cars necessarily, but you know, I think that's where, again, noise and parking's where it starts to get upsetting of neighbors.
That's where the impact is, but that's where it actually gets hard to have objective standards, because in some neighborhoods, 5 cars might be fine, in other neighborhoods, 5 cars might create a parking problem. And so these guys are trying to do is get away from those subjective standards related to having impact on neighbors, or trying to fulfill that policy intent without having it be arbitrary on the part of the planner. So I hear what you're saying. I just don't know that there's if the number's 30, you can reasonably assume there are 15 cars.
6 or 6.
Well,
And you know that on some parts of town where there are 1-acre lots, 15 cars would be no big shakes. And in other parts of town where there are 1-acre lots, 15 cars might be a real inconvenience to the neighbors. And so I think that's where you have to go, though, is if you want it to be objective,
yeah.
so that we're treating similarly situated property owners the same, then you have to expect that in some cases it might be a different impact.
Yeah, it's pretty limited. I mean, R10, R15, you know, I mean, that's pretty much uplands.
Not that many
you know,
places that can
and,
do that.
Forest Highlands, I mean.
1 hour 10, no, yeah.
How many
Have we-
properties did you say?
Forest Highlands, yeah.
191.
Have we truly had any complaints about issues like this ever? I've never heard of.
No use.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, and I did talk to our civil enforcement staff about the existing business, and they said they weren't aware of any complaints.
I think we're creating a problem that doesn't probably exist. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. I would say that we could, if we get something that's causing an issue, then we can change things.
Back. Yeah.
We can always change things, but I don't, because part of it is that, I mean, I know a lot of people who have graduation parties and there's more than 30 people there. And I mean, I know they only have a graduate every once in a while. No, but I mean, if you go around here in Lake Oswego after graduation, I mean, there's a lot of, we have 600 kids graduating, and at any given time, there's a lot of
I
parties.
guess that's where my concern is, when you get 70 a year, you know, it's one thing when your neighbor has a couple parties a year and
Right.
it goes, but it's another if it's like they can have up to 70
For money.
and it's a money, it's not, you know, that's where I'm just, that's where I have a concern, because I'm in an R10, and we do have some 1-acre lots, and I know when someone has a big event, our neighbors all let everyone know, so that you're kind of working to accommodate, because we haven't, you know, we don't have sidewalks, we have narrow streets, and that, if I had someone doing that 70 days a year, I'd be ticked off.
Yeah, but
Right,
it's
but you don't.
But I'm just saying, but this
You don't have
allows
to-
it, so I'm just
Not
putting it
now.
out there, and maybe it might never be an issue, so I do agree, it's like, do we want to be careful not to create an issue where there isn't an issue? But I also just want to bring that we have to be careful, because we're also saying, well, this is now allowed, so people might be like, oh, well, guess what I can do?
And we just still have the other provisions in the code, you know, if folks are parking illegally.
I guess my other thought process is it's going to be a rare person who's going to take land that's in Lake Oswego that's worth quite a lot of money and convert it to ag. I mean, I'm not suggesting. I mean, it's not going to be 192 lots where this happens.
No.
I mean, it's on 1 now. Maybe it'll be on 2 someday, but I just don't see this as something that is going to pencil for most people, financially speaking.
Right, right.
If they own a 1 acre lot, this is not what they're going to do.
They'll be subdividing it to make it into 4.
Yeah, honestly.
And our purpose
I mean, and that is the other thing, because it's so limited, I mean, we could, I would think, potentially just, could we make it a conditional use? Because it's so few and far between, and just like, it wouldn't be something we want everyone doing, but to have them come in.
Well, that's true, and then I would believe then the existing winery would be considered legally non-conforming because we changed the code, and so, but if they wanted to do any expansion or changes, they would have to come in for a conditional use permit. I mean, the whole reason that we put this forward is that we discovered this use. We didn't want to preclude this use. It didn't fit well with the business license, or business home occupation type of business. So that's what we're really trying to do, is make sure that we can accommodate this use, which we haven't received any complaints about. So we don't want to stop a business that's doing well and not having impacts to anyone. So the other thing we could do is, contact the business and try to get some feedback direct on this, and if, maybe they don't operate 70 days a year, maybe they don't need 30 clients. I mean, we could also look into it in that way. Or another option is to make it a conditional use, just outright.
Yeah. Since it's so rare.
Yes, honestly.
And then to make sure it's, that there is some parking, or at least they might say, hey, like once in a blue moon, I want to, do an event. I don't feel like the current one is, I mean, those are narrow streets up there, and you never hear anything about it being a problem.
Right.
So I think it's pretty low what they're doing. Okay, I feel good about that.
Yep.
On what Councilwoman was saying, like our whole thing initially, we go back to like the outdoor, like the events, was we were like, okay, we got residential areas are residential areas, and we want to primarily keep them residential areas. No one moves in and, wants a new neighbor to move in, and then they're running, some kind of business with lots of customers coming to the house, day in and day out. So we got to thinking though, like really the outdoor, it's not so much like, to what Councilor Burdick was saying, it's not so much like outdoor versus indoor. It's like, it's noise and parking. So is there a way maybe that we could look at this, like instead of thinking, and like you said, so the current thing is we really don't allow the outdoor activity? That's kind of the status quo?
That has been our current status quo, and it was to address the specific rental of outdoor space that was being disruptive to neighbors.
And so now we've kind of, though, we've drawn a line in the sand there.
That would be prohibited under either of those options.
Okay, so that's great. So what if it was something that had some of the provisions, like the Planning Commission has suggested, like the sessions for, I think what you referred to, like instructional / demonstrational, like classes, as opposed to, the professional who may be having one person. I mean, they're not doing instructional or, okay. So with some of these provisions, the holidays, the hours, but limiting, instead of trying to draw this 8, I think it was a 8 person per class. I mean, because counting the people going in, and that gets tricky. Could we focus on the parking? Could we say no more than number of off-site cars? Because again, we feel like if people are walking there, they're biking there, or they can somehow handle it no one cares. No one and they're not being loud, like you can't hear anything. No one, whether they're inside or outside, who cares? And that way, we're creating that flexibility that I think the Planning Commission is looking for, but really addressing what the key issues are, which is, if you can handle it with, and setting some number that's really, then it's objective. You can say, hey, you've got 8 cars here off, no, like for your business. And then it really keeps it to like an accessory type use too, and not, someone who really should be in a commercial zone operating a yoga studio out of their garage. It's kind of in a high intense way that's, now they're taking up all the parking or whatever. Is that possible?
Just a clarifying question. So are you suggesting we still keep the hour limitations, the number of sessions, et cetera, but replace, instead of saying no more than 8 people, you would say no more than 5 off-street parking or something to that effect?
Yeah.
And then there's no limitation on the number of people that they can have there.
Yes, and no noise beyond the property
Okay.
lines, you know.
I think the difficulty is how we identify the cars that are associated with that. I mean, we have a similar provision when we're trying to get at commercial vehicle parking, because we can clearly identify those. It's a little bit more difficult to identify the personal vehicles that are associated with the clients of the business.
We were talking about this. It's like, I think in all of this, there's no, unfortunately, it seems like there is no perfect, because I mean, it's identifying, how do you know if there's 8 people going
Right.
in? I mean, Bill's not going to come and sit there with his camera and, well, we know. Well, then. So it's all kind of challenging, but I think these are also like the few and far between. I mean, you know,
Well, I
we got
think
so hundreds of these businesses in town that are causing no issue whatsoever.
You don't even know there's a business.
You don't even know it's a bit, and that's what we
Yeah.
like.
Discretion
You
is
don't
the
even
key
know.
to everything, I
Right.
think, is, but I also look at it as, let's say a college kid is home and they're a swimmer and they want to teach kids swimming lessons in their pool in the back. So, I mean, you know, we don't want to regulate that. I mean, but that technically would be a business and it'd be an outdoor activity and, you know, so I don't know. I'm almost in the realm of just saying, what is it, if we don't hear you, we don't care about you or something?
That's kind of what, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the outdoor activity with discretion. That's our policy. Is that nebulous?
That's not, that's,
That's kind
Just
of
a
what
little
we have
bit?
now.
I mean, we do have a conditioning authority under the business license procedures, which do allow us to impose conditions of approval. So if, for instance, we looked at a site and it had some unique circumstances, such as, I don't know, if it's in the Uplands neighborhood and where, you know, on a street that has absolutely no on-street parking and they have a short driveway where you can only park 2 vehicles, I mean, we could potentially put a condition that says no more than 2 clients, and that applies only to that business. We do have to give them an opportunity to appeal that decision to a hearings officer, but we do have the authority as staff to impose conditions of approval to address site-specific issues. But if you were looking for something broader, yeah, I mean, I suppose we could do that. You're right. It's all going to be a little bit difficult to precisely enforce if we get a complaint. But
Yeah, I think we're all getting after the same thing, which is like, we want to allow the flexibility, but, you know, try to set these objective standards that really limit the.
You're concerned about the impact on the neighbors.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
That's all
because
I'm
things
curious
like
about.
not having noise, I mean, I will say when my dogs are in the backyard, my neighbors definitely hear them. So it's the noise associated with the business it's the parking impacts on neighbors that we're concerned about. Like, I don't know, and that's the problem, is we are in subjective land then, right? And
That's why you just set a number of cars, you know?
that's why, yeah, no, we could do that.
Yeah, and no noise beyond the property line. That seems like a standard we have elsewhere, you know, no noise.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is no noise beyond the property line isn't a realistic standard for any activity in LO, for anything.
no.
We would
It's not
probably,
like when you mow your grass, your neighbors hear the sound of your lawnmower. I mean,
There's
except
something
for
that we
those of you
could-
using electric, and then you're
I think what we're
fine.
looking for is some form of a phrasing or something, just that, I mean, there's a big difference between having someone with a loudspeaker directing a yoga class,
Yeah.
you know, directing a fitness class.
Jazzercise. you know,
Yeah,
7 in the morning.
versus quietly, you know, no amplified noise.
Right. No, I'm following your logic.
Like
I'm
no
just trying to
amplified
figure out.
noise?
Yeah.
Put
Or-
it into
yeah.
words.
Yeah, but I see even in your own backyard, you can have amplified noise, right? You can
Yeah,
listen to
but
music
again,
when you're in the.
but it's not a commercial
Again,
But it's
it's
not
about the
commercial.
relationship between the noise and the business, and also about the relationship between the frequency. That's probably the number one thing. Actually, if your neighbor had a yoga class once a year in their backyard, probably no one would care. It's if your neighbor has 8 yoga classes a day,
Right.
every
7
sunny
days a
day of
week.
the year, that's when people start to care.
Exactly.
And so I think that's what staff have tried to do. And so, you guys have ideas?
Well, what I would just note is that the 8-person limit, our code enforcement staff has said that is far more enforceable than the cars, because we can see, you know, a lot of times they'll have a sign up, you know, or whatever. And people can physically see their neighbor in their backyard. There's 8 people or there's 10 people out there instead of 8. Whereas cars, we cannot identify whose car belongs to whom. So it is a proxy for noise, and it's a proxy for traffic by having that 8-person limitation. It's not perfect, but I do think from our code enforcement staff perspective that it is more enforceable to do the person limitation rather than the cars.
Oh, okay.
Councilor Rapp has his.
Oh, yes, okay. Laurel, let's, got a little system here.
Hello?
Okay, okay, Councilor Raff, go ahead. Oh.
You in?
Well, ask everyone to be very quiet.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Pretty straightforward for me on this one. Look, I think as a city council, we should be careful not to over-regulate our citizens. Anytime you create regulations, you have to police them. Just because we're afraid something's gonna happen doesn't mean it will. I think also we have community, in my experience, that kind of tends to like to look for problems and to complain about our neighbors. I don't think we should give people a reason to complain about their neighbors. I think we should trust everybody has good intentions. And no one's trying to make anybody unhappy in our neighborhood. So I would just say, just because we can regulate something doesn't mean we should.
So which way are you headed on the?
Do anything.
On the question. You would do not, so you would keep the prohibition. This echo is horrible. Okay, I don't quite understand which direction he was going with. Okay. Yeah, the echo's terrible. Well, okay, Councilor Rapp, are you in favor of maintaining the prohibition then on the, or just allow anything?
No, just not over. It's overreach, like.
I don't know if he can hear us.
Can you hear Aaron?
He's got nothing. Oh. Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any?
So are we getting complaints, since we've kind of said no outdoor stuff, I guess that's kind of put a kibosh on the outdoors. Prior to that, I know we were getting complaints with the pool parties and the true events and so forth. Were we getting complaints because people were having outdoor, I'll say more a quiet, like a yoga or something
Yes.
like, okay, we were.
I mean, is it our most common complaint? No, it isn't. But yes, we have gotten complaints about outdoor classes before.
Was it something that, that they were just happening? Was it frequency? Was it size? Was it all of the above?
It was, I think for one, it was frequency and signage, the one that I'm fully aware of. But, and unfortunately, Mr. Youngblood is not here with us tonight, but when we come to a hearing, we can have more information on the types of and numbers of complaints that we've received for those types of outdoor activities. But I would say it's a handful.
Okay.
Not a lot.
I think too, it's like kind of putting, these are good rules for any of your type B, I like those categories, those type B businesses, indoor, outdoor. Again, it's not, I think it helps mitigate the impacts in general.
Well, I'd like to know the numbers a little bit, because I think Councilor Raff has, if our point, are we putting regulation in place where maybe we don't need it? I definitely want to keep the parties in that. So to me, that's a given. But are we making something and kind of creating regulation where maybe it's not to the point where it's warranted? And so, do we, so some of the numbers would be interesting to see, just to say, or is this something that we can deal with because it's so few and far between? We can do it on a specific basis.
And just to remind everyone, we have always had this issue with the home businesses. It's just that we had a very subjective standard. What we're trying to do is create a more objective standard. We're not
That's right.
Imposing we've always regulated it. We're trying to be more objective about it.
Yeah.
That's right, because we want to be fair. We don't want someone who just happens to have a neighbor that doesn't like them or has a neighbor who's an unreasonable, and any noise is bad noise. You know, we want to make sure that we can apply this evenly to everyone.
So we're trying to make objective like the same. The standard we always had was it had no impact, no adverse impact, you know, on the neighbors. And I don't think anyone's thinking, well, screw the neighbors, let them, adverse impacts abound. No, I mean, we don't want to have this. So we're trying to figure out through the number of people, the noise, like how do we say that in an objective way? Because I mean, for me, I really feel like we hear, even with our housing, you know, we hear from neighbors, we want to maintain the neighborhood character. That's like with housing. I mean, these are houses being proposed, and they're like, it's going to change the neighborhood character. Well, now we're talking about not housing, we're talking about commercial use in the residential area. And so to be consistent, I mean, I think our neighbors are very concerned about, like, they want a peaceful neighborhood. And even though it doesn't happen a lot, I don't think anyone wants to be the one who lives next to, you know, the person who has with visiting patrons, you know, coming every day, you know, to the house and parking all over and blocking this. Because even if it's not a thing, it's just inconvenient, you know, and you're like, oh God, you know, it's not what you expect when you live in a neighborhood that your neighbor is serving customers on a daily basis. You know, I wouldn't expect that. I mean, you expect
I don't think you buy a house in the neighborhood in a residential area to have a business being run next door to you.
No.
I mean, I just don't. And I think that's where I think we have to be a little bit cognizant of what our zones are and what the expectation of a zone is. And I'm all for home businesses that are pretty much absent of activity. It's really what I'm after, because I think in the same token where you have somebody running a mail order business out of the house and they have trucks coming 5 times a day and with a big loader in the back and they're, you know, constantly in and out and in and out and in and out. I just don't think that's, go get a warehouse, go get a place where it's a place of business. And so I do think the standard in Lake Oswego, I think, needs to be, still rigid in the sense that a residential zone is for families and quiet and, well, not quiet, I don't want to sound like an old person, but I mean, in residential areas so that there's not commercial activity going on all the time. And I get the occasional somebody, I agree kind of like with yoga classes. Okay, well, go get a studio. I mean, if you're going to have outside yoga classes with 20 people and there's cars everywhere, I think it's time to get a studio. If you have a client that comes in and you have a home gym and they're inside and nobody even knows that they're there.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a whole nother story. And so I'm very pro home business as long as you're incognito is kind of my viewpoint, because that's what your expectation as a neighbor is, so that you.
I agree.
So I don't know. I know that, and that's just pretty kind of cut and dried. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we're just seeing like these more expansive home businesses, you know, with customers coming. And I think, like we said, we have hundreds of established ones that we don't even know exist because they're just single people, whatever, you know, with a home office. So I would lean towards, I don't know, the type B business, like with the people coming. I don't know, I'm just not big on it either. I think it opens the door to this. No one wants it. That's how I feel. I mean, I think keep it to the neighborhood. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I concur. I think that our position has been no outdoor activity, and I have a really hard time thinking we shouldn't open it up, especially since we are in a situation where we are required to increase the density of housing units, and we're actively doing that. I don't think this is a good idea for us I don't think it's a good idea for us. I think we should stay with option 2. I mean, once again, the things that are happening now where people are conducting these indoor activities that aren't having any negative impacts on the neighbor, I think are perfectly fine.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the impact that we're really concerned about, and that's what's so hard to be clear and objective about. Either you hear it or you don't, and I say we shouldn't.
Okay. Counselor Afghan. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, we have an echo. This is what I'm thinking. We have 570 businesses and we hardly hear about any problem. So the problem from my perspective doesn't exist. So if the problem doesn't exist, maybe it is okay to be a little subjective and not have hard rules in place. So if a yoga class doesn't bother any of the neighbors, they can have as many people as they want. But if there's a one-person jazzercise class that's going to create so much noise, that's not acceptable. So right now we don't have a problem. And being subjective for me is okay in this case.
Thank you, Councilor Afghan. I do think that.
Councilor Raff says what Councilor Afghan said, so he agrees with me.
I will say this is exactly what we're trying to get away from, though, is regulating only businesses where the neighbor complains. You know, that is why we're here. That is why we're here. We already regulate these businesses. This is not new regulation. We're just trying to make it objective, which means, yes, we have to hash out these details. And it can't just be, if your neighbor is nice, you can do whatever you want.
But I go back to what Councilor Verdict was saying. If your noise doesn't go beyond your property line and the parking doesn't negatively impact the neighborhood, then there's no problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Afghan.
Can we put no impact to your neighbor?
Well, that is more or less our current regulation. And I would just remind you, you all tasked us with coming up with clear and objective standards almost a year ago, trying to do this. We spent quite a bit of time talking with the public, with the Planning Commission, doing surveys, going kind of back and forth on these issues. So that is certainly something that would be very easy to implement, and that we already have that. We're doing this because we found that was presenting a lot of issues for our code enforcement staff in terms of enforcing it and actually being able to regulate at all when it comes to these subjective regulations.
You guys also are aware that sometimes neighbors call code enforcement when they don't like their neighbor.
Of course.
I know.
And then often what happens next is the other neighbor calls code enforcement. And so the reality is when you have subjective standards, that's the dilemma that we put staff in the middle of.
And Eric, like, because honestly, I want your insight on this because you are the folks who are there, know all the things. Like, I didn't even know that we're 570. I've never heard, a war-torn Lake Oswego in terms of people like calling, hey, he did this. And, like Jessica said, that if it's 8, we know that's objective. You see in your backyard, I count 1, 2, 3, it's 15. I think this is things like that we need, something objective said that, hey, you really cannot have 20 people in your backyard doing some gym and like yelling and doing things, but 8 people, it's reasonable. They're not being loud, they do their stuff. We can do that. But, we all, like we say, these things are here. We just need to be more objective. And I think to cut this thing very short, do you have any, like, I know you give this option, but where do you think we should go? Where? In what, like?
I mean, it's not my project necessarily, but, I do think that the option 1 provides the flexibility we need. I think we've heard really consistently from the neighborhood chairs, as well as the Planning Commission and almost everybody we've talked to about this publicly, that they do not want to be overly regulated. They don't want to impose too much regulation on home businesses. We've consistently heard that when we've presented these standards to them, and specifically with the outdoor activity standard. That's why we created this option to try to sort of bridge, the sort of gap between the desire for this activity in a limited sense, again, limiting the number of folks that can visit at one particular time, with the sort of reasonable expectation that not, sort of, I guess, we want to limit it, I guess, in a reasonable way, allow for the activity, allow this to happen without, completely, saying no to everything. So I think, we have heard that there is a desire to do these classes outdoors, that there are limited sort of versions of these, like art classes in particular, yoga classes that are relatively quiet. And we do think that eight clients might be a more reasonable. Obviously, 20 is kind of getting a little beyond the pale, I think. So, I think we have to draw a line somewhere if we want to have them be objective. So it's really difficult, and we can go kind of back and forth about this forever. But I do think we're on the right track, hopefully. But I just want to, I guess, give a little bit more voice to the fact that we have heard that consistently, not just from the Planning Commission, the consistent concerns about imposing too many regulations through this exercise.
Yeah. And I would also add that the number 8 actually came out of the survey. And so, yes, we have this policy now that says you can't have outdoor activity, but I don't think that means that all of our home occupations are complying with that. So I think we heard in the survey that there are some businesses that are doing it. And when I asked them about what allowances they needed, that was kind of the upper limit of, and so when we discussed this with the Planning Commission, we actually originally came with the number 5, and they felt like that was a little too restrictive, and so we went back to the survey, and based on those results, that's how we came up with the number 8. So,
from the home businesses.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, honestly, it is like when we put, it's like we say, in a 3-year-old class, it have to be 1 to 10. Some people go 12, but if you get caught, you will be in trouble. It's 1 to 10. If we set these things and say it's 8 people, that's it. This is the code. If the neighbor call, take pictures and call and say, oh, he has 20, we should have also a way to put sanctions on people who violate the code we are doing and enforcing. But I think that's where we should go. Like, honestly, I totally agree with you, and because it comes from findings of people surveyed, of the Planning Commission and of you, we can have our view of things, but I think also these are very objective things coming from multiple sources for us. I would go option 1 with all the things.
Mayor Becker, do I have your permission to ask a question of the dais?
That information.
I think what might be helpful for council and certainly for me, and to clarify the record, is that I've heard 2 things. One, that the city only receives a handful of complaints every year, despite the fact that we believe we have around 570 home occupations. But I also just heard that that our current prohibition and the lack of objective standards presents a lot of issues for enforcement. And I think that's some of the confusion you're hearing both on the dais and from Councilor Rapp is, how are you all squaring those 2 things? Is there a problem? Because we have so few complaints, that indicates we don't have a problem. And yet you all are just telling us code enforcement is having a heck of a time.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the answer is code enforcement is having a heck of a time in theory applying the code. But if you're saying, so if you can square those 2 things, that might bring
Yes,
some
and
clarity.
I apologize, I should have been clear. The context that they asked that I was asked that question was specific to outdoor classes. We have lots of different types of home occupations that, but we get complaints all the time about people using commercial vehicles or people who are creating excessive noise. I mean, there's lots of different kinds of complaints that we get that are not necessarily specific to outdoor classes. Those ones are very difficult because, as Ms. Bennett pointed out, some people don't like each other, and then they're pitted against each other. Or we have a neighbor that just has unreasonable expectations for a business, or maybe they have reasonable expectations, but we can't apply it evenly because we have these very subjective standards. So we are trying to create more objective standards. They're not perfectly objective, but more objective, so that when code enforcement has these issues, which do come up frequently, although the specific outdoor class ones are more of a handful type of, so I should have clarified that, but that's what I meant when about a handful.
Yeah, so I think that's very helpful factual information, I think, for you all in terms of the concern that I hear being generated around, is there a problem or isn't there? And I think what we're hearing is very clear that there is a range of complaints, and that in addition to the practical problem of enforcement, that of course your legal team, as you all are well aware, is concerned about the general application of our land use standards, and that they should be objective. They should be subjective. No, they should be objective. So I think maybe those are some of the reframing as you all continue the discussion.
That's very helpful, so thank you, everyone. With the information, I think I'm leaning towards option 1 for this, when we're talking about outdoor activities. I think we should have some leniency. I don't think just saying, nope, cut it out. I think that goes too far. But my next question goes to, you're saying that you're kind of getting a wide range. Are we addressing enough of those other issues within this, okay.
Yeah, the commercial vehicles is a big one, or that's a more common one. Yeah.
For me, when I was reading through that, I was like, okay, that seems reasonable, your recommendation. What about the noise? I mean, is that always just kind of up in the air, or?
What we would specify, the proposal is to specify that that all businesses, actually any activity on the site is subject to our noise ordinance. So if it's an unreasonable noise, it's outside of our, that's construction activity, I guess, is when the hours of operation are.
I would say that having worked on noise issues for a long, long time, they're really hard, and no matter what your noise code says, there'll be some circumstance that arises that doesn't quite squarely fit it that you wish you could make stop. And so that's what's going to happen.
And I would also add that we explored the idea of having specific noise standards for home occupations, and the recommendation of our code enforcement staff was just to defer to the nuisance ordinance.
Is there a way to, just thinking about and I hear with code enforcement in the car is difficult. Okay, so that's great. We'll definitely, take their advice on that. But if they're, customers, patrons in these type B businesses are getting, illegally parking, parking on the getting ticketed, that we take that as a condition of the license. And, they get to think, hey, I'm going to be a business and I'm having people come here and say, listen, well, you got to make sure that they're not, illegally parking. Because, hey, we got some neighborhoods with street parking, that's easy. Boom, easy to find a place to park, or big property, maybe they're not even on the street.
I don't know if we're going to talk about that, because Ellen and I were just like, can we hold the business owner accountable for something that one of their patrons does? I'm not positive. And, now with
I'm thinking like a nuisance, like if you're doing it, I'm not saying like, hey, boss, someone got a ticket, you're out of here.
Don't you think the consequence, though, of getting a ticket is enough of a consequence to cause the client not to do it again?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like the person who actually committed the violation is the one who should face the consequences?
Well, yeah, they should. I'm just saying if what I'm getting at is if they're creating conditions that are creating a neighborhood nuisance, I don't want us to be like, well, whatever, I think that we should have some way of addressing that.
Yeah, we never do that. But the question, again, do I hold the business owner, like if I go to your business and I behave irresponsibly, do I hold you accountable?
The state does absolutely hold licensees accountable for the actions of their patrons, and they close them down.
If I drink too much and you serve me.
And you cause a disturbance, absolutely, pull the liquor license.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about it, but it's kind of interesting.
I'm just thinking like this is what we're trying to get at. It's like the few and far between. But what you don't want to have is like the one bad actor who's just really pushing the envelope with the neighbors. Because I think we are trying to find this happy medium where it's not just straight prohibition, but there is some allowance.
Why don't we do something slightly different, though? Why don't we think about, and maybe you guys think about, how could we track complaints against these type B businesses over the first couple of years? I mean, as opposed to trying to figure it out now at the dais, why don't we collect some data and see what happens?
That would be great.
And then if we need to modify the code in the future to address the impacts, then we can do that. As opposed to, I always feel like I always tell people my crystal ball is cloudy enough that I do anticipate problems, but I usually anticipate the wrong ones. And so I think the things that we're afraid of will not be the actual things that come to pass. Something bad will happen. I just don't know what it is yet.
I think that's great. And I mean, because I will say, like, even in the commercial areas, like, there's conflict between the commercial neighbors, right? But what do? Well, they're commercial, so they put up, I'm going to have you towed, but a neighbor's not going to contract with the towing company in the same way. So I'm just thinking, like, it's almost like when they open, I always think like, a pound of prevention, right? So, or an ounce of prevention. What is it? Ounce of prevention? Whatever it is.
Yeah, ounce of prevention, pound of cure.
Yeah, so like, anything we can give, like, hey, you got this permit, but you really got to like be a good neighbor. Like, let's, like kind of head it off as best
Yeah, we can do some education. That's also a great idea. But I'm thinking that the way to tackle this is to not try to figure out, not to pre-anticipate, because the truth is if we pre-anticipate,
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I guess and this is where my concern is a little bit, is like getting too restrictive, maybe also like when we don't even know what potentially the issues really are. Whoops, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just checking it with Trudy.
No, that's
True. Getting laughter over on the side. But so if we can, but I also hear what staff is saying, that we need some guidelines. We need some objective standards. So if we can kind of just find that balance, and it seems like we're getting there with option one, at least for this issue, from my perspective, I would say that's what I would, kind of just, let's get what you guys need, but let's be careful of being too prescriptive. And if we can track and have education and encourage where we need to, businesses to say, hey, do your best to keep your people parking in front of your house and on your property, that will go a long way.
Exactly.
I just want to point out, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I guess I would just point out, we don't necessarily need you to make a decision on we want option 1 or 2 tonight. It's more, I think we're still planning to bring forth option 2 to a hearing. Based on your guidance, we can change that. We can change option 1. I think we're asking you, are these options sufficient? Do you want to tweak option 1? Is there something, is there another option that you might be interested in considering here? So, I just kind of want to remind you, we don't have to like completely solve everything and come to a full agreement tonight. It would be great.
Yeah, and I think what what the mayor is saying is, for example, not oversee like that parking. People come and park, create problem, neighbors get pissed and all that. Maybe in the option, we can, some stuff are objective. I like what Ms. Maglu said, it's in the backyard. We look, we say 8 there, 20 there. They are breaking the law. As opposed to, I see 20 cars, but whose car are they? They may be the neighbor or someone else. You don't know who. So I think we just have to, and also in mind that what we want is, I always loved your expression of the blue zone. We want a place where people are not very stressed. They live quiet life in the enjoyment of their homes. I think that's what we all are looking for. We discuss, our expert heard us. I think if we let them, they can pull out something that when they bring it, again, we can make a decision.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the big picture is, and you'll probably kill me by saying this, but pickleball tended to be one of those things where it was a aggravated sound, 12 hours a day, and that kind of got to people. To me, you move, but that's my opinion. But obviously, I was in the minority on that. However, I do think it gives an illustration for us to say, hey, that's what we want to prevent, is the next pickleball in a local neighborhood where, i.e. like the swim party thing, where they were having a swim party every 2 hours with 20 to 30 people, and you did that over the summer every 4 days a week. I mean, I can totally see where people would totally get
gonna be
aggravated.
Right.
So just put in the code, pickleball tolerance or something, and then
I think we got like a good.
That's what we're preventing.
Like we're hearing like that there wants to be. I mean, the consensus is that, we want to create some flexibility, but that we are really, to tell the Planning Commission, we're very concerned about preserving that character of the neighborhood. And so maybe like the upper limits or not, maybe they come, when it comes to us, it's like not the upper of what, because that's the main, that's kind of the concern. Because I think some of us are not even comfortable going this direction, but are willing to allow some flexibility, but it shouldn't be just like.
She doesn't have to vote yes on everything. It's okay.
Well, I'm kind of, in this, I'm kind of, there's a good mix here, of, and I think we can get to some limited activity, but it needs to kind of really be limited. So if they can work with that, it would be great.
So I guess what I'm kind of hearing is that we will move forward with these two options, subject to, potential modifications of option one that may occur, later. But I think at least we have the structure in place potentially for us to make those modifications at a hearing.
And maybe take off the PC and the council in parentheses, so there's not a bias.
Well, and I think you could do things like look at hours. I'm surprised that you're going to limit public holidays but not limit Sundays. I mean, maybe there's other modifications that would limit impacts. I think about part of what we tried, back to pickleball, part of what we tried with pickleball was, hey, we're going to give you 4 hours on Sunday mornings where you're not going to hear the noise so you can sleep in. It didn't work, but so maybe there's, and that's what the noise, or maybe there's other things you could do to still allow the activity, but maybe limit the impact on neighbors.
Yeah, pretend like you're a retiree who sits outside every day. What would you want to have going on next door? That's, them to channel that. Okay, we appreciate it. This is like I agree. I mean, this is a lot of sausage making. We don't grind the sausage this often, so it's good though. This is great city work. That's what we do best. That's what we do best. So thank you everyone for the good input. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
Hopefully you're about as clear as mud right now, but.
And we have this, yes. So we cannot wait for this hearing.
Yes. So just so you're aware, this is the tentative schedule. We're planning on a planning commission hearing at the end of November, and then we would come back to you for your hearing in January.
Thank you. And we appreciate the planning commission bringing the feedback back to us. It's helpful. It's good to, some of these topics, it's great when we can think about them honestly more than just like one time, it's, so, yeah. Kind of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
You don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting? No, just kidding.
Information from the council.
Wine Walk was an absolute success. There was over 800 tickets sold out event with another 75 people that participated in functioning, helping to pour wine and whatever. So we had almost 900 people that were brought into Lake Oswego. It was a great weather, great time, and a wonderful community event. Between the extension of Saturday Market and the Wine Walk, we had a Saturday that had more traffic than I think we've ever had in the downtown area for a long, long time. And so it helped a lot of our businesses, and it certainly brought the community a lot of great goodwill, because both the Saturday Market and the Wine Walk were perfectly executed and well attended. So
great.
It was a good day for Lake Oswego.
Great. Thank you for supervising it.
Hey, I was given tickets.
It's a tough assignment.
Tickets, and you go around and you help pour.
Yeah. I wanted to, Councilor Afghan.
I wanted to thank you for collaborating with the other local mayors and Mayor Wilson, showing unity that we do not want to have military in the domestic affairs. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Councilor. And actually, Councilor Afghan, that is a great segue into what I was going to mention was that, so I wanted to bring it with the council. Since our last council meeting, there's a lot going on. And I had emailed you all, joined with a cohort of other regional mayors to support Mayor Wilson in solidarity, and really wanted to see if that message, that I had is one that is supported by the council. I think our staff here at the city, especially as we do communications, as this issue does not seem to be, going away, would like to get a good read on the council, as a whole, not just the mayor, on this one particular issue. And to be clear, the mayors across the region joined with Mayor Wilson because we stood on one solid principle, and that is that, one, like a bedrock principle of our local sovereignty. We talk a lot about local control on the a lot, right? We don't want the state meddling in our affairs. And a bedrock principle is really the refusal to allow the military to engage in the domestic policing, that we have our civil police force. And I would think here, if we had Chief Burke and Martha saying, hey, the folks who gather on Saturdays are just fine, and someone else from the federal government came in and said, we don't think so, that we would all have a problem with that, and that we put a lot of faith in our local police, in the civil servants, here at the city, and that is one of the biggest issues of local control. And so that's what got us a bipartisan group of mayors all standing together behind that. So I just wanted to bring that forth. We hadn't had a chance to talk about it, and I don't want to be ahead of all of you in messaging either. So wanted we heard from Council Afghan to see if this is a consensus of the council too.
Right, I support that. I think we've felt a lot of pressure from the state of Oregon that has impeded what we felt doing what was right for our community. And I would say wherever the pressure is coming from, we're on site. We were elected by the people here. And I believe that we know what's best. And I think that if we had a problem, we would certainly be discussing it with our city manager and our chief of police, and we would act appropriately, I would.
Yes, no, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm with you on that, and we just all we want is a safe community, and like we say, we don't want any overreach. Like the state, the federal government, we have a police, we can police our cities, and when we need the federal government, like on an ice storm, when everything, we want them to come for that, not for something else.
And we have those channels exist for us to
Yes,
ask
to do
for
that. Yeah, to ask for it. Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Raff?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor. I just think there is a bit of irony when our governor, who has oftentimes not heeded the rule that we advocate for of letting us do what we need to do, but then when we come to her aid, it's kind of forgotten. So, and I do think, I think Portland does have a problem. I think there is a lot of crime and drug use that does need to be cleaned up, but I do also believe that it should be Portland's problem to solve, not anybody else's. So.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Councilor Raff. I agree. I think we all agree with that too. That's the thing. It's not to say there's all communities have issues. It's certainly not to say that there aren't issues to solve. We're all acutely aware of them. And we're so aware too of the impact this has on our region. This is we see it with the projects that we're trying to get done here, the regional reputation. This is not, these kind of, narratives they're not doing us any favors, any of us, whether we're in Lake Oswego, whether you're in Beaverton, Wilsonville, or Portland. It impacts the entire region, so.
I support you.
I'm just going to say this. The unfortunate thing about Oregon is it's almost, with the current administration, when you put up the reactions like we do, it's feeds their fuel for the fire. I think we got played. Oregon got played, is what the bottom line is on a national, and we're expendable as a state. And so he's going to play us, and it's not good for Oregon. And I wish we would have just said nothing and no protesters showed up and it was a big blank.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I don't like the whole thing, but as an overview, Oregon got played and they're going to continue to get played, and it's not going to be to our benefit. And I just find that really unfortunate. And so it's, if we don't learn how to play the game, we're going to have fewer federal resources and more times where we'll be made a example in the negative. And I don't like that because that's not Oregon. But I just think that's, it's an unfortunate byproduct. That's all I'm saying. It's an unfortunate byproduct. I don't like any of this stuff that's going on. So it's just sad that we're at this stage where this is happening, but.
There could be a good opportunity for Lake Oswego. You know, they're having the emergency naked bike ride, and I don't see why it can't be an emergency naked triathlon. And you get them riding their bikes down to the steps. They take right out the dock at the village.
I just
run
want
through
to
the
let you know,
neighborhood. I mean,
it's going to start to rain.
that is an idea.
It's going to start to rain on Thursday. It's going to be 47 degrees Saturday night when they're doing the naked bike ride. So there's going to be a lot of goosebumps.
Wasn't that usually
Is
in
that
the
algae
summer?
It's
bloom
always
gone?
in the summer.
That's what when somebody said that, I'm like, wait, isn't this the wrong time
It's
of
an
the year?
emergency. It's a special emergency. naked bike
It's
ride.
an emergency.
Oh, it's a special one?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
great. We
I
have a
know. I
special
think just
one.
here.
The first one wasn't special.
You guys, well, thank you very much. Thank you for the feedback. That's very helpful. Thank you, and thank you for the support. I think overall, the leadership throughout the region has been, it's great to see everyone united in this way and generally on good behavior. You know, I mean, we've seen, you know, and kudos to our community too. I mean, they continue to come out on the weekends and have for years really shown a way to express themselves in a way that, I mean, we have had no, you know, issues here, and it's been, and you know, honestly, we're very lucky, and so it's great. Community members know how to support one another, exercise rights, but then keep people safe at the same time. That's what everyone wants.
Yeah, and then they stay in Lake Oswego and have lunch, and then go do a little
Exactly.
shopping, and then they go home. It's great. I mean, to me, that's what life is all about. If you don't like what's going on, do exactly what they're doing. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's
The PJ.
I don't like being played. That's
I
my
like the
thing.
PJ. I like the PJ. And
I have nothing to top that. It'll all wait. Read the Friday email, please.
Okay.
But, Mr. Mayor, when you do the call of the meeting, I wanted to talk to all of you of something important. That's not city
Oh,
related.
yeah, okay. Okay, well, so stay online here a second, but we're adjourned.
Okay, can
Hold
you?
on, wait till this.
Yeah, we have to, yeah.